Chapter 140. Strange elemental energy. Xie Jiushan actually went out to battle personally. All the troops within the 100-mile valley retreated in all directions. Xie Jiushan had been famous for a long time and held the position of Zhenyuan general in the capital. He controlled a large number of troops. Today, he actually wanted to personally attack Long Chen on the peak. The first prince's expression was unprecedentedly ugly. The thing he didn't want to see the most had finally happened. Xie Jiushan could be said to be his greatest support in the capital. Today, Xie Jiushan actually personally attacked and killed Long Chen in front of everyone. After today, regardless of whether Long Chen lived or died, Xie Jiushan's position as Zhenyuan general would no longer exist. In reality, how could Xie Jiushan not know that his actions today would destroy all his status in the capital? However, when Long Chen led 8,000 soldiers and came out unscathed, he knew that if he didn't kill Long Chen today, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens in the future. He would only have a chance when the first prince obtained the throne. He couldn't wait any longer. Since Xie Chongfeng's death, his heart had been like dead ashes. Countless hatred had filled his heart. There wasn't a moment when he didn't want to kill Long Chen to avenge Xie Chongfeng. I've fought on the battlefield all my life and made countless contributions. I only have one son. Today, even if I don't want the position of Zhenyuan general, I will kill you with my own hands. Xie Jiushan stared at Long Chen with eyes full of crazed killing intent. Even his body was trembling with excitement. He had waited for this day for too long. Long Chen stared at Xie Chongfeng. His heart didn't waver. He had lived 2 lives, so he knew karma and grudges. He and Xie Jiushan might not have interacted much, but they had formed a life and death grudge. Today was the day to end this karma. As Xie Jiushan's voice fell, his right hand grasped the air. A 7-foot-long broadsword appeared in his hand. The white blade glinted coldly with a black iron body. Anyone who looked at it couldn't help but feel a chill in their heart. This saber is called Black Water. It has killed 121 enemy generals and countless soldiers. It has fought alongside me for 30 years. Xie Jiushan walked step by step towards Long Chen. The soldiers in all directions stopped moving. They knew that today's battle had nothing to do with them. The entire 100-mile valley was filled with killing intent, and the wind swept away the clouds. Long Chen took a deep breath and charged forward with the hornless dragon sword in hand. The two of them leaped into the air and clashed with each other under the watchful eyes of the crowd. Although the sword in Long Chen's hand was shining brightly, the difference between it and Xie Jiushan's was like heaven and earth. With every move Xie Jiushan made, the spiritual energy around his body surged like a tide, and waves of energy spread out like a tsunami. Bang! With just one move, Long Chen was pushed back dozens of meters, and he frowned. Although he had the strength of 36 dragon elephants, he was still in the spiritual martial realm and had yet to open his sea of qi. Although he had the strength of 40,000 pounds, he was only comparable to the 4th layer of the divine transformation realm. Facing Xie Jiushan, who was in the 7th layer of the divine transformation realm, was a bit difficult. On the peak, Qin Qing stared at Long Chen and muttered to himself, "A young master of a family from Iron Mountain City can actually take an attack from me, a warrior at the 7th level of the divine transformation realm, with a cultivation of the spiritual martial realm. Not to mention the entire Long Empire, I'm afraid that there has never been such a monster in the surrounding countries." The people around him nodded repeatedly. They felt that Long Chen had given them too many surprises today. The 3rd prince hurriedly stood up and said, "Father, Long Chen's talent is outstanding, and he is definitely not a fish in a pond. However, he is definitely not a hidden danger to the Black Dragon Empire. Perhaps he is the opportunity for the rise of the Black Dragon Empire. Father, please save him." Qin Qing frowned slightly, and no one knew what he was thinking. He just asked faintly, "3rd Prince, is this person your guest?" The 3rd prince's heart trembled. He did not know what Qing meant, but he still nodded. When can this formation be broken from the outside? Qing asked the old man behind him. The old man stared at the place where Long Chen and Xie Jiushan were fighting. He shook his head and replied, "The defensive formation of this military exercise ground can't be broken in a short time. Even if we attack it, I'm afraid the outcome of the battle will be decided by then." Everyone nodded. Now that Long Chen was in the 7th layer of the divine transformation realm against a spiritual martial realm, no matter how heaven-defying he was, they were afraid that he would be defeated in a short time. The outcome of today's battle was already decided. In the valley, Xie Jiushan forced Long Chen to retreat 10 times in a row. However, his face gradually turned ugly because he found that with his strength, he could not do anything to Long Chen in a short time. Sword will, 5 elements slash. With a roar, Long Chen slashed out 5 times in a row. Each slash carried an unparalleled sword will, unpredictable and powerful. Xie Jiushan became more and more frightened. Under normal circumstances, the spiritual martial realm was like a child to him. No matter what kind of attack it was extremely difficult to hurt him. However, Long Chen was different. Although Long Chen was only in the spiritual martial realm, he could feel the terrible power contained in each of his attacks. You're not even 20 years old, but you've comprehended 5 types of sword will. Each move is a high-level martial arts technique. However, I've reached the 7th layer of the divine transformation realm. Without the Sea of Qi, you can't defeat me. Xie Jiushan roared. He had no intention of retreating at all. No matter how Long Chen attacked, he faced Long Chen head-on. The violent spiritual power broke through Long Chen's attacks as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. Seeing this scene, the people on the peak sighed. Long Chen's talent was rare in the world, but Xie Jiushan was really too strong. The outcome of today's battle was already decided. Even if he was within 100 miles of the valley, no one would be able to save his life. However, at this moment, something happened that made everyone's jaws drop. Xie Jiushan had exchanged dozens of moves with Long Chen. He had the upper hand in every move, but at this moment, he spat out a mouthful of blood. What's going on? Didn't he have the upper hand just now? Long Chen kept retreating. Why is he like this? Other than being a little embarrassed, that kid doesn't seem to have any injuries. On the other hand, Xie Jiushan is seriously injured. What the hell is going on? For a moment, everyone was inexplicably shocked. No one could see the reason for this strange scene. Even Xie Jiushan, who was in the arena, was at a loss when he saw the blood spurting out of his body and his sea of qi that was riddled with holes. He screamed crazily, What is going on? What did you do?" Long Chen looked at Xie Jiushan and was a little surprised. In fact, even he did not expect this scene. The reason for this was that as he was about to step into the soul formation stage, a strange origin energy flowed out from the mysterious area in his mind. This origin energy flowed out involuntarily along with Long Chen's spiritual power. It tore apart Xie Jiushan's sea of qi like crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. What is this origin energy? It can actually tear apart the sea of qi of a level 7 spiritual martial realm cultivator. Long Chen muttered to himself. He was more and more curious about the mystery in his mind. No one could understand the sudden turn of events. However, everyone knew that Xie Jiushan had lost. He had lost in a strange and sullen way. "General Xie, open the array. You have lost today. The military exercise is over." The first prince seemed to want to give Xie Jiushan a fist salute at the last moment. At least, he wanted to keep him alive. This way, he might have a chance to start all over again. Chapter 141. A Sky Full of Dragons and Elephants. Xie Jiushan laughed maniacally as he felt his sea of qi, which was riddled with holes by Long Chen's strange yuanli. Not only did he not retreat, but he also went crazy. His entire body suddenly exploded with spiritual energy. The hard and cold armor instantly shattered, revealing a body full of scars. I, Xie, have fought countless battles, but I have never retreated. Today, facing you, a spiritual martial realm, is even more impossible. Xie glared at Long Chen. Long Chen looked at Xie soaring spirit and crazy killing intent. He could not help but shake his head, and respect for Xie grew in his heart. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, everyone stared at Xie right hand. A stream of blood gradually flowed out from it. Xie then pressed his thumb down between his eyebrows. His fingertips carried a smear of blood as they swept across his body. In the blink of an eye, lines of patterns covered Xie body and covered his face. Out of nowhere, he looked even more awe-inspiring. In the blink of an eye, a blood-red mist enveloped Xie entire body. Lines of patterns like twisting earthworms crawled across his skin and swept across every corner of his body. Gradually, his scars disappeared and his skin became brighter. Xie, who was already middle-aged, had his hair fluttering in the wind. His face was full of vigor and vitality. He was no different from Long Chen. Long Chen looked at this scene and could not help but frown. This was because he realized that not only had Xie recovered his youth, but the hole in his dantian that had been damaged by Yuanli had also recovered. Even his cultivation level was increasing. This is the art of life stealing. On the mountain peak, a general cried out. Everyone's expression changed when they heard this. Qin Qing also shouted coldly and ordered, "Is Xie crazy? Tell everyone above level 6 Lingwujing to attack the formation. This formation must be opened." When everyone heard this, they knew that the situation had reached an uncontrollable stage. Even the first prince could only shake his head when he saw Xie madness. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, tens of thousands of people walked towards the defensive formation of the 100-Mile Valley. Beams of spiritual light violently attacked the formation. Inside the formation, many of the major generals who had participated in the battle could see the severity of the situation. They hurriedly bombarded the formation from the inside. "I said that I will avenge my son today." Xie acted as if he did not see anything. At this moment, Long Chen could also see the peculiarity of Xie secret technique. With his powerful divine sense, he could clearly sense that although Xie had recovered to his peak state, his vitality was rapidly depleting. Bang! As Xie voice fell, he suddenly disappeared from his original position. His speed was so fast that it could not be compared to when he was fighting with Long Chen. Aurora's plunder. Long Chen held his long sword and blocked the attack as fast as he could. A cold light quickly condensed on the edge of his sword and finally intertwined with Xie long sword. Boom! Immediately after, a strong gust of wind spread in all directions. The light of the sword and the shadow of the sword actually dispersed the clouds above the two of them. So strong, but it's still not enough. Long Chen frantically retreated. When his feet landed, the layers of the mountain more than 10 meters away cracked and emitted a rumbling sound. Xie strength had increased explosively. Regardless of whether it was his speed or strength, he had reached his peak state. Long Chen knew that relying only on his strength and that strange origin power was not enough to block him. Strength can defeat 10 speed. This was how it worked. Although Long Chen's martial arts, body movement, strength, and origin power were unparalleled in combat, he was still only at the spiritual martial realm. He still had not condensed his energy C. Being able to fight Xie, who was at the divine transformation realm, was already incredible and unheard of. At this moment, Xie had even surpassed the 7th level of the divine transformation realm. Such terrifying strength was not something that could be made up for by simple techniques. At this moment, the only way to win was to use a secret technique. In this way, he would be able to increase his combat strength in a short period of time. Only then would he be able to defeat Xiejioushan. Countless people surrounded the periphery of the 100-kilometer area. When they saw this scene, they all shook their heads. Everyone had seen Long Chen's strength today, but such a genius was going to fall like this. It was truly a pity. The first prince and the third prince also quickly descended from the peak. When the third prince saw this scene, his expression immediately turned extremely ugly. He shouted to the people behind him in a deep voice, "Use all your strength and consume the medicinal pills. Attack the formation." Seeing that the third prince's personal guards were attacking the formation with all their might, the eldest prince slowly walked over. When he saw Long Chen retreating inside the formation, he suddenly sneered and said in a low voice, "Third brother, I have to say that you've found a terrifying guest elder. It's a pity that he's going to die today. In Xiejioushan's current state, unless he's at the Return to Void Realm, there are few people in the entire Black Dragon Empire who can defeat him." At this moment, the eldest prince let out a long sigh of relief. He even felt that Xiejioushan's madness was not a complete mistake. Using all of this in exchange for Long Chen's life might not be a bad thing. Qin Lai's face was ashen. As he watched Xiejioushan continuously increase his spiritual power, his heart sank to the bottom. His whole body also began to attack the formation. Long Chen is finished. General Xie used this technique in his early years for a short period of time and killed someone who was 3 realms higher than him. However, he also lost several years of his life because of this. Now that General Xie is using this technique without regard for his life, I'm afraid that apart from the legendary Return to Void Realm, no one can suppress him. It's a pity that Long Chen is so talented. Countless people were discussing this. Long Chen's name was destined to spread throughout the Black Dragon Empire after today's battle. However, he was going to fall here. In the valley, Long Chen's brows were tightly knitted. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. He knew that if he did not use the secret technique today, he would not be able to defeat Xiejioushan. Today's battle was too fierce. If I use the secret technique, the short period of weakness will be the most dangerous time for me. However, I can only do this now. Now that I'm at the 36th level of the Spirit Martial Realm, once I use the secret technique, I may have the cultivation of the Divine Transformation Realm for a short period of time. Long Chen clenched his fists. His clothes fluttered even though there was no wind. Looking at Xiejioushan, who was coming at him again, Long Chen roared, "Today, let me see in advance what kind of combat power I have after entering the Divine Transformation Realm." Secret Technique, Dan Acupoint Spirit Condensation. Following Long Chen's roar, the sound of a volcano erupting suddenly came from his body. Streams of spiritual energy gushed out from the major acupoints all over his body. In an instant, 36 illusory images of dragons and elephants soared into the sky and covered the entire sky. Long Chen's cultivation was at the peak of the Spirit Martial Realm. Under normal circumstances, other secret techniques would not have any effect at all. This was because ordinary secret techniques could not surpass the cultivation of a large realm. At the very least, it was impossible to condense the sea of energy and enter the Divine Transformation Realm. However, the technique he was using now was completely different. This technique allowed him to condense the power of all his major acupoints, open the sea of energy in a short period of time, and enter the Divine Transformation Realm. Bang! The powerful aura directly blew away Xiejioushan, who was coming at him. Xiejioushan's expression changed drastically, as if he had seen the most terrifying scene in the world. At the same time, countless people in all directions stopped what they were doing and stared at Long Chen's back. Chapter 142. Temporary Divinity Transformation. The 36 dragons and elephants covered the sky and the sun, vast and boundless. The 36 acupoints on Long Chen's body shone brightly like stars. This, what's going on? How can he have 36 dragonesque elephant phantoms? Xie Jiushan cried out in shock after being pushed back. As everyone knew, there were only 9 levels in the spiritual martial realm. Only 9 major acupoints could be opened and the power of 9 dragon elephants could be awakened. But now, Long Chun had 36 dragonesque elephant phantoms in front of them. Not only that, the dazzling starlight around him told everyone that he had opened 36 dragonesque elephant acupoints. What's going on? What kind of secret technique did this brat use? How can he possess the strength of 36 dragon elephants? These major acupoints are shining brightly. They are definitely not unrelated acupoints, but dragon elephant major acupoints. Cries of surprise could not be heard, and in an instant, a shocking wave was set off. Such a strange thing had already exceeded everyone's common sense. At this moment, the first prince, the third prince, and the people at the General Zhenyuan mansion that day suddenly came to a realization. They recalled how Long Chun had opened 5 acupoints in a row at the General Zhenyuan mansion that day. Now, it seemed that Long Chun was not using an unorthodox method to open up unrelated acupoints. Instead, it was the Longxiang acupoint. At this moment, the Black Dragon Empire's Minister of National Defense, Qin Qing, also stared at Long Chun. After a long while, he said in a deep voice, "This kid must not die today," Qin Qing shouted. His eyes were like cold needles as he looked at Oyezi. His meaning was self-evident. Oyezi suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. He quickly stepped forward and said, "I can tamper with this array. With everyone's bombardment, it will be opened in less than a quarter of an hour." For a moment, Long Chun became the center of attention. He was an unprecedented wonder. Inside the formation, Long Chun already had a plan for this scene. Following the appearance of the 36 dragon elephant phantoms around his body, the bright starlight from the major acupoints all over his body was like a river converging into the sea, transforming into streams of spiritual power that flowed towards his dantian. Qi. As the dragonesque elephant phantoms disappeared, a qi sea slowly formed in Long Chun's dantian. However, this sea of dantian was extremely unstable. Long Chun clearly felt that the barrier in his dantian was still there. Using a secret technique to achieve a short breakthrough was much different than him breaking through the spirit martial force and entering the semi-god realm normally. However, this 3,000-foot sea of qi was enough for Long Chun. The moment the sea of qi was formed, the shackles in Long Chun's mind seemed to disappear completely. The fog in the mysterious area also dispersed. Long Chun's Antion. For ordinary people, the divine transformation realm was the beginning of the divine will and the qi sea realm. On the other hand, Long Chun possessed the sovereign's divine will. To him, the divine transformation realm was only lacking a spiritual sea. At that moment, he had briefly peeked into the divine transformation realm, but he had discovered another world. That was the mysterious place that had always existed in his mind after his rebirth. This is a true dragon? It turns out that the divine transformation realm is just the beginning of my cultivation in this life. Long Chun looked at the mysterious area in his mind and couldn't help but tremble. Ha ha! Long Chun stood at the peak of the mountain, his long hair fluttering in the wind. He held a long sword in his hand and smiled arrogantly. Countless people stared at Long Chun. For some reason, they felt a sense of insignificance in their hearts. They even subconsciously wanted to kneel down and worship him. Xie Jiushan's face turned gloomy as well. He shouted, "Playing tricks? You've only reached the semi-god realm for a short period of time. I'm still close to the profound semi-god realm." As soon as he finished speaking, Xie Jiushan pointed his long sword at the sky. Spiritual energy shot out from his entire body. The light from the long sword split into 8. They extended thousands of feet into the sky and pierced through the 9 heavens. There was a blood-red brilliance coming from them. It was extremely terrifying. Slash of the 8 desolations. Whoosh. 8 blood-red rays of light that were thousands of feet long suddenly fell. Wherever they passed, the ground cracked and the mountains turned into powder. A series of explosions rang out incessantly. The 8 rays of light instantly sealed off all of Long Chen's paths of escape. This sword was going to decide life and death. Xiejioushan has really gone crazy for his son. This child is obviously not an ordinary person. If he wasn't born with a monstrous talent, he definitely has an unimaginable background. He actually wants to kill him. The 100 battle sword technique is an 8th grade king-level martial arts technique. Xiejioushan has cultivated it for dozens of years and has already reached the perfection stage. This sword technique is really terrifying. At this moment, Long Chen's dragon elephant force has turned into his sea of vital energy. Although it has increased slightly, it still can't withstand Xiejioushan's current attack. As time goes by, Xiejioushan's life force is almost completely overdrawn. His cultivation is close to the void return level. However, Long Chen, who was standing in the same place, actually revealed a faint smile. The long sword in his right hand moved slightly and pierced through the air. An invisible wave slowly spread out. But the moment the wave appeared, it was as if the entire world had quietened down. Wherever it passed, the wind stopped and the clouds stopped. Then, the wave became faster and faster. In an instant, it swept across the land within 1,000 meters of Long Chen. When the wave touched the 8 rays of light, there was a series of sounds of dissipation. It was as if rain had touched a raging flame. The mighty sword was only left with a wisp of green smoke in the blink of an eye. The entire 100-mile valley seemed to have quietened down. Xiejioushan also stopped in his tracks. Rumble. The mountain range, which was dozens of meters tall, suddenly collapsed. The broken parts were as smooth as a mirror. Countless huge trees were broken in the middle, and the upper part was the same. Looking down, a line of blood gradually became clear on Xiejioushan's chest. His pupils gradually became dilated. The long sword in his hand fell with a loud crash, and he fell to the ground with a thump. The Guardian General, Xiejioushan, had fallen. The Guardian General is dead. Dead? What's going on? What kind of sword technique was that? A Major General in the 100-mile valley exclaimed. The people around him also revealed looks of fear. They frantically retreated. They were originally very far away from Long Chen and Xiejioushan, but now they were forced to retreat thousands of meters. The third prince, Qin Lai, who was originally attacking with all his might at the edge of the formation, could not help but stop his movements. Long Chen had actually killed Xiejioushan with a single sword strike. What was that sword strike just now? That's impossible. Even if he's at the soul formation stage, there's no way he can kill Xiejioushan with a single sword strike. The first prince's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. Qin Qing, who was standing at the top of the mountain, stared at Long Chen and murmured, "That sword technique is definitely not at the king stage. Who on earth is he?" Bang! At that moment, the ripples of the formation suddenly spread out. Many major generals and soldiers rushed out of the 100-mile valley in a panic. They looked at Long Chen from afar, and their eyes were filled with fear and reverence. "All soldiers, listen to my order. Prepare for battle." Qin Qing suddenly frowned. He commanded all the soldiers present from the top of the mountain. At the same time, he himself leapt into the valley. Tens of thousands of imperial guards followed closely behind him. Chapter 143. The first prince's fear. After the formation was broken, Qin Qing led many generals and the princes to arrive. Under Qin Qing's orders, all the soldiers in the 100-mile valley surrounded Long Chen. Many of these people were Xiejioushan's Jinyuan army, and each of them looked at Long Chen with murderous eyes. The imperial guards who were originally guarding the perimeter also arrived in an instant. In the blink of an eye, more than 100,000 soldiers surrounded the entire 100-mile valley. Long Chen gradually frowned. He had expected such a scene, but he was not afraid at all. With the power of the divine transformation stage, perhaps only the return to void stage cultivators could stop him. Seeing Qin Qing walking over, Long Chen's eyes narrowed and he said coldly, "You want to stop me?" Long Chen's voice was not loud, but it was like rolling thunder that went straight into everyone's mind. Even the soldiers with low cultivation turned pale and fell to the ground. For a moment, Qin Qing and the people closest to Long Chen all changed their expressions and retreated dozens of meters. What's with this strong will? Even if he's at the divine transformation stage, he's only at the initial stage. It's impossible for him to have such power. Qin Qing cried out involuntarily. Qin Lai stood to the side and stared blankly at Long Chen. The battle strength that Long Chen displayed today was too shocking. The sword in Long Chen's hand shook, and a gust of wind blew in all directions. A murderous aura spread out in all directions. The threat was self-evident. Long Chen did not take a small ruler of the Black Dragon Empire seriously. With his current strength, he could fight and retreat. Even thousands of soldiers and horses would not be able to stop him. Long Chen and Qin Qing did not have any enmity, but if he did not act wisely, he could not blame anyone else. The scene was in a deadlock. Countless soldiers were sweating. Long Chen's aura at this moment made them tremble with fear. Long Chen snorted coldly, turned around and was about to leave. Just as he was about to move, a chill flashed through Qin Qing's face. Long Chen's strength had already reached the point where it could threaten the imperial authority. Moreover, the strength of 36 dracophants that Long Chen had cultivated was something that Qin Qing was rather envious of. "Father, you must not, this person's talent is extraordinary. He may be the blessing of the Black Dragon Empire." The third prince hurriedly rushed forward. Before Qin Qing could reply, the first prince stood out and said in a deep voice, "This person's body exudes a strange aura, and he has no fear of the Empire. He must be strangled today. What's more, his strange technique is strange. If we can learn his strange martial technique." The first prince's words made the surrounding people's hearts burn with passion. The terrifying scene of Long Chen's strength at level 36 of the spiritual martial realm fighting against the late stage of the soul formation realm was still vivid in everyone's mind. If they could use him for themselves, it meant that they were strong. It had to be said that the first prince's words struck a chord in everyone's hearts. However, Qin Qing also knew that if he fought with Long Chen now, even if he could hold on until Long Chen's secret technique ended, the casualties would reach a level that he could not bear. "Who dares to attack my pill pagoda?" At this moment a shout was heard. On the distant mountain peak, a figure led by Lu Tsonglan flew over. "Master Long Chen is an elder of my pill pagoda. Who dares to attack him? My pill pagoda's once-in-a-thousand-years genius. How dare you?" The soldiers who were about to charge suddenly stopped. Qin Qing could not help but be startled. Lu Tsonglan arrived first with Lu Yi and Yen Li on a flying demonic beast. He stood straight in front of Qin Qing. Qin Qing's face immediately darkened. He said coldly, "Lu Tsonglan, although you're the Alchemist Guild's president, you don't have much control in my Black Dragon Empire. My empire and the Alchemist Guild have always minded our own business. Do you want to break this rule?" The Alchemist Guild was spread across the entire continent and countless countries. It was rumored that the Pill Pagoda existed in all the major sects, low-level countries, and even the legendary divine kingdoms. Lu Tsonglan stared at Long Chen from afar and replied, "Long Chen is my Pill Pagoda's king stage alchemist. He's also the master of my daughter, Lu Yi. If you dare to use your army today, you'll be making an enemy of my Pill Pagoda." Lu Tsonglan was neither servile nor overbearing. It was as if he did not care about Qin Qing at all. Qin Qing's face turned purple and white. Soon after, he started coughing. Lu Tsonglan's threat was not groundless. It was rumored that there was a country under the 5 major sects that was far more powerful than the Black Dragon Empire. Because they were dissatisfied with the Pill Pagoda's price control, a war broke out and an alchemist guild was destroyed in a short period of time. However, the consequences that followed were something that no one had expected. That was, the 5 great sects attacked at the same time and destroyed the entire country. Since then, no one dared to challenge the dignity of the Alchemist Guild. The alchemist guilds of various countries were only responsible for recruiting alchemists. They did not participate in the war between the empires. On the other hand, Long Chen felt that his cultivation was becoming more and more unstable. He knew that the sea of qi created by the secret technique was about to dissipate. He stared at Qin Qing and said in a deep voice, "Once the path of immortality opens, I'll represent the Black Dragon Empire and go to the 5 major sections. I won't be reluctant to leave your empire. However, if you persist in going about things the wrong way, I'll wash the imperial capital with blood today." Long Chen's words were incomparably cold. At this moment, he no longer had the time to dawdle. If Qin Qing still did not answer within 10 breaths, he would use the last bit of his strength to kill him and intimidate the entire Blue Dragon Empire. Qin Qing was silent. In the end, he looked at the already dead Xie. Long Chen's casual sword strike made him feel cold all over. If Long Chen really disregarded everything and washed the imperial capital with blood, would they be able to stop him? After a moment, Qin Qing coughed violently again. He shook his head and said, "Sir, hope you keep your word. Your name will naturally be on the path of immortality." Qin Qing waved his hand and made all the soldiers open a path. Lu Tsonglan directly said to Long Chen, "Little friend Long Chen, feel free to come over. As long as you're in my Pill Pagoda, no one will be able to hurt you." After saying that, he stepped on a flying demonic beast and directly flew towards Long Chen. Yanli and Lu Yi stood on either side of Long Chen to protect him. Then, the 3 of them quickly left the 100-mile valley under everyone's gaze. Many of the Pill Pagoda's elders snorted and left. Qin Qing's face was gloomy. He led many generals and soldiers back to the imperial capital. Countless people were on tenterhooks. No one had expected that today's military exercise would turn out like this. After everyone left, the 3rd prince and Oyezi still stood in the 100-mile valley. "Oyezi, quickly send a message to my master. This Long Chen's ability has already exceeded the scope of our abilities. This person is too strange." "That's right. Tell my master that this person has the ability to condense 36 dragon elephants," the 1st prince said in a low voice. After the power that Long Chen displayed in the battle between Xie Jiushan and Long Chen, the 1st prince felt an unprecedented threat. He had to deal with this matter as soon as possible. Otherwise, once Long Chen truly stepped into the divine transformation stage, there would be endless trouble in the future. Chapter 144. God-transforming pill. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed since Long Chen returned to the Pill Pagoda. In this half a month, the entire Black Dragon Empire seemed to have fallen into a storm. Every day, every night, there would be a name being spread. That Long Chen really has 3 heads and 6 arms, and the strength of dozens of dragons and elephants? Isn't that so? It's said that he even killed General Xie, who was in the late stage of the God-transforming realm. 3 heads and 6 arms? I heard that he's 10 feet tall. Don't talk nonsense. The path of ascension will open in a few months. At that time, the experts of the various empires will gather. If he's really that strong, you can naturally meet him. Since Long Chen's battle in the 100-mile valley, everything about him had spread to several countries. The more the news spread, the more ridiculous it became. Inside the Pill Pagoda, Long Chen had been taking pills for the past 10 days. Until today, he had recovered about 70 to 80% of his strength. That day, the secret technique had exhausted all the spiritual energy in his major acupoints. For the past half a month, he had been suffering from the feeling of emptiness in his body almost every day. In a few months, I will set foot on the path of ascension. The day when I meet Big Brother again in this life is not far. The 5 great sects control all the resources here. Once I enter the 5 great sects, it will be the day when a carp leaps over the dragon gate. Long Chen muttered to himself and pushed the door open. Under the scorching sun, 2 willow trees swayed. The green branches reflected mottled shadows. More than 10 people under the trees saw Long Chen walk out and quickly went to greet him. Master Long Chen. Master Long Chen. These people all looked at Long Chen with reverence. Long Chen looked at them and smiled faintly. For the past half a month, the pills he took every day were all provided by the Pill Pagoda. Naturally, Long Chen couldn't accept people's kindness for nothing. Many alchemists had stepped into the king stage because of Louis and another person's guidance, so many people came every day. On the other hand, Long Chen patiently used his inherited knowledge of alchemy to answer their questions one by one. However, there were simply too many people coming and going. In the end, Long Chen set a rule of 10 people per day. Most of these people were middle-aged men, and there were many elders among them. They were all on the verge of a breakthrough. As Long Chen waved his hand, the 10 of them handed over the pills they had refined in advance to Long Chen for inspection. Lu Tsonglan, Louis, and Yen Li were already used to seeing this scene from afar. Long Chen's actions made Lu Tsonglan even happier. In just a short 10 days, the Black Dragon Empire's Alchemist Guild had an additional 7 King Stage alchemists. Teacher Yen Li, have you thought it through? If you agree to support my daughter, the Pill Tower will be your home in the future. Lu Tsonglan asked Yen Li. Seeing Yen Li shake her head again, Lu Tsonglan frowned slightly and suddenly said in a low voice, "As long as instructor Yen Li agrees to this, I can tell you the cause of your clan's disaster." Yen Li's originally delicate and pretty face suddenly froze as she cried out involuntarily, "You know about this? Who did it?" "Oh Yezi," Lu Tsonglan said in a deep voice. Bang! A pill in Long Chen's hand was suddenly crushed. Under the cover of his divine sense, he could clearly hear the conversation between Lu Tsonglan and the others. In the past few days, Lu Tsonglan had ordered people to inquire about Yen Li's background, and Long Chen knew it clearly. However, he never thought that the result of Lu Tsonglan's investigation would actually be Yen Li's master, Oh Yezi. You're saying that the one who slaughtered my entire clan was my master? Yen Li staggered back a few steps, her entire face as pale as paper. Although many of Oh Yezi's actions were very shameless, she still felt grateful in her heart. After all, it was Oh Yezi who took her in when she was young and taught her the Tao of Arrays. However, Lu Tsonglan's words now made her feel cold all over. Lu Tsonglan shook his head and sighed, explaining the matter from beginning to end clearly. It turned out that Yen Li's entire clan being slaughtered when she was young was not an isolated case. In fact, at least 2 or 3 of Oh Yezi's many disciples had suffered the same fate. Everyone knew about Oh Yezi's so-called fetishes and disciples. Although Lu Tsonglan did not know the specific reasons, he could guess most of them. First, it was Yen Li's talent in arrays. Second, it was naturally Oh Yezi who took a fancy to Yen Li's beauty when she was young, evoking his perverted fetish. Unfortunately, even though he had raised Yen Li to her current state, he was still unable to obtain her. Yen Li felt as if she had fallen into an ice cave for a moment, but after a moment she suddenly took a deep breath and said in a cold voice, "I can help alchemy for the rest of my life, but I want to kill Oh Yezi with my own hands." Lu Tsonglan nodded when he heard this, as if he had been prepared for this for a long time, and quickly said, "Although killing Oh Yezi will cost you some money, if you can fight for a future for my daughter, it will be worth it." Not long after, Long Chen dismissed the 10 people and walked towards Lu Tsonglan. He cupped his fists and said, "My cultivation has now been restored. Thank you for taking care of me these past few days, President." Lu Tsonglan hurriedly waved his hand. You're welcome. Since you're Louis's master, then your matters are my Pill Tower's matters. When Lu Yi saw Long Chen walking over, she intimately walked over and grabbed his arm. She said playfully, "Little master, he has recently refined 2 types of second-grade king step pills." Long Chen nodded. Lu Yi's talent in alchemy could be said to be top-notch. If he had Yen Li's help, his future would be limitless. Yen Li's future would also be limitless if she followed Lu Yi. "President Lu, Long Chen has a request." Long Chen thought of the brief feeling he had when he reached the soul formation stage and said to Lu Tsonglan. Lu Tsonglan nodded, indicating for Long Chen to continue. Long Chen didn't hold back and said directly, "I want the soul formation pill. I wonder if the pill tower has it?" The soul formation pill was extremely rare. Although it was only a third-grade king step pill, the refining method and the core spiritual medicine used to refine it had long been lost in the long river of history. This pill could allow a person at the completion stage of the spiritual martial realm to have a 70% chance of refining the dragon and elephant acupoints, condensing the sea of qi, and stepping into the soul formation stage. It could be said to be priceless. After a moment, he shook his head and said in a deep voice, "The pill tower doesn't have this pill, but I know where it is, and there's more than one. To be precise, it should be in the hands of some people. Just say it." Long Chen didn't expect that the pill tower didn't even have this pill, so he continued to ask. "Although the soul formation pill can no longer be refined, it's not extinct. A year ago, 3 people obtained 3 bottles from an ancient place of inheritance. It's estimated that there were a total of 15 soul formation pills in the 3 bottles, and these 3 people were all from the Deqian Empire." Long Chen frowned slightly. He didn't expect that the soul formation pill wasn't in the Black Dragon Empire. The Deqian Empire was located to the west of the Black Dragon Empire, and its national strength far surpassed the Black Dragon Empire. If it wasn't for the 5 great sects' suppression, the Black Dragon Empire would have been nibbled away. "Those 3 people?" Long Chen continued to ask. Chapter 145. Transnational Challenge: The 3 Strongest People on the Heaven Ranking. When Long Chen heard this, he couldn't help but frown. He immediately thought of the dazzling divine palace in his mind and the true dragon inside. He didn't want to wait any longer. He had to step into the soul formation realm in the shortest time possible and completely open the mysterious area in his mind. To completely clear the fog in his mind, he had to be at least in the soul formation realm. After Long Chen's brief peek, he returned to the spirit martial realm and the mysterious area was once again covered in fog. But Long Chen knew that it was a dragon palace, and inside the dragon palace was the spirit of a true dragon. If his guess wasn't wrong, then it was the heavenly dragon vein that had never appeared on the Bloodline Azure Sky ranking. As long as he merged with the spirit of the true dragon, he would definitely be able to obtain the heavenly dragon vein. Right now I have an unprecedented strength of 36 dragons and elephants. If I want to step into the soul formation realm, then opening my Qi Sea is as difficult as ascending to the heavens. This soul formation pill must be obtained, otherwise I don't know when I'll be able to step into the soul formation realm. Long Chen thought in his heart and immediately made up his mind. Lu Tsonglan looked at Long Chen's expression and guessed a bit. He shook his head with a bitter smile and said, "Although your battle strength is strong, you must not underestimate these 3 people. They all have ancient bloodlines, especially the number 1 on the heaven ranking, the Wind Marquis. You must treat them with caution." Long Chen nodded slightly. Since Lu Tsonglan reminded him like this, it meant that these 3 people had strength that far surpassed normal people. Moreover, the strength of people with ancient bloodlines couldn't be measured with common sense. This was also the reason why Long Chen was so passionate about the heavenly dragon vein. "I ask the president to prepare a flying mount for me. I will head to the Big Dry Empire today," Long Chen said lightly. Then Long Chen's right hand moved and took out a jade slip. The array recorded all the way up to the 9th grade of the Emperor realm. After that, there were many array explanations. Long Chen raised his hand and placed the jade slip in front of Yenli. As for the method to refine the pill, Long Chen wasn't afraid of it being leaked. At the very least, Lu Tsonglan would do a good job of keeping it a secret, because if this matter were to spread, it would be extremely harmful to his daughter. Moreover, refining crack pills didn't just require alchemy, it also required a similar level of cultivation in formations. Just this alone was enough to make Lu Tsonglan keep a respectful distance from crack pills. If Long Chen hadn't obtained the two great inheritances, he probably wouldn't have been able to refine the crack pill. After checking it, Yen Li's expression changed greatly. She asked, "Why are you doing this? This thing is too precious. I can't take it." Long Chen waved his hand and said, "The things in this jade slip only reach the emperor rank. If you want to advance further, it will depend on your luck. This thing is not only for you, but also for Lu Yi to refine pills. After all, if your cultivation in formations can't keep up with ease in the future, it will be even more difficult for her to break through." After Long Chen finished speaking, seeing that Yenli was about to say something, he moved his feet and turned around to leave. Lu Tsonglan stared blankly at the jade slip in Yen Li's hand. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. A jade slip that could reach the emperor rank. If this thing was taken out, Yezi would probably crawl over to beg for it. 4 hours later, Long Chen sat on a flying demonic beast and set off from the imperial capital. He headed straight for the Deqian Empire in the west. After half a month, Long Chen finally arrived at the imperial capital of the Deqian Empire. It had to be said that the imperial capital of the Deqian Empire was far more powerful than the Black Dragon Empire. Just the city walls alone were more than 10 meters higher than the Black Dragon Empire. The entire imperial capital was filled with martial arts. Along the way, there were cases of martial artists fighting with each other. After Long Chen arrived at the Deqian Empire, he immediately went to the Alchemist Guild in the Deqian Empire. There were alchemist guilds in every empire. Even the facilities inside were almost the same. After stepping into the Pill Pagoda, Long Chen even felt that he was still in the Black Dragon Empire. "Please help me inform your president that Long Chen requests an audience," Long Chen said to the receptionist. The receptionist was stunned at first. Soon after, she saw the 3 pill cauldron badges on Long Chen's chest. Her expression changed and she nodded repeatedly. 3 pill cauldron badges. That meant that he was a king-rank alchemist. How old was this young man in front of her? The tall Chong Sam woman in the receptionist's heart was filled with disbelief. After waiting for a while, the woman brought over a middle-aged man with a goatee with a big belly. The middle-aged man's originally enthusiastic face suddenly froze when he saw Long Chen. Soon after, he asked doubtfully, "You are the alchemist grandmaster that Lu Tsonglan mentioned?" Long Chen frowned slightly, but he still nodded. Before coming, Lu Tsonglan used a communication talisman to inform the Alchemist Guild branch to receive Long Chen. Otherwise, it would be difficult to find the top 3 powerhouses on the heaven roll in the Deqian Empire. The middle-aged man glanced back and forth at Long Chen. Then, his gaze fell on the pill cauldron badge on his chest. He frowned deeply and muttered, "I didn't expect Lu Tsonglan to be telling the truth. You are actually so young. He even told me that you are an alchemist grandmaster whose attainments in the alchemy Tao are not below his." The man's expression was arrogant. With his goatee and big belly, it was hard to believe that he was the president of the Deqian Empire's Alchemist Guild. 3 pill cauldron badges. King-rank alchemist? The president with the goatee asked with a strange expression. Long Chen still nodded. He didn't want to lower himself to the president's level. After all, he came here today for the God Transformation Pill in the hands of the top 3 on the heaven roll. He didn't care whether the president believed in his talent in alchemy or not. "Are you done asking? My cultivation in the alchemy Tao has nothing to do with you." I only came here for the whereabouts of the top 3 on the heaven roll. Long Chen asked. Top 3 on the heaven roll? When Long Chen's voice fell, whether it was the president with the goatee, the waitress in the Chong Sam, or the people walking beside them, they couldn't help but stop in their tracks. The goatee asked doubtfully, "Why are you looking for the top 3 on the heaven roll? Are you going to challenge them? I advise you to hurry back to the Black Dragon Empire. You definitely can't defeat the 3 of them. If you aren't willing to help, I'll just find another place. There's no need to say so much," Long Chen said in a deep voice. F***ck. This person actually came to my Deqian Empire to challenge the heaven roll. He's actually prepared to challenge the top 3. This guy really thinks highly of himself. I don't think he thinks highly of himself. He just doesn't want to live anymore. I'm afraid that this young man won't even be able to withstand one move from the Black Widow in 3rd place. Haha. The people around them sneered. The heaven roll rankings existed in every empire, but generally, cross-border challenges, whether it was the Earth roll or the heaven roll, would only be held at a specific time. There were very few people like Long Chen who directly crossed the border to challenge. You don't know what's good for you. Since you want to die, then I'll tell you the simplest way. If you're a heaven roll expert, then just set up an arena on the street. When the time comes, as long as the experts on the heaven roll hear about it, they'll go up on the arena. If you really have the strength to challenge the 3 of them, then fight to your heart's content. Chapter 146. Heaven List challenged the president of Deqian Empire's Alchemist Guild looked at Long Chen mockingly and shook his head. You'd better hurry back to the Black Dragon Empire. You don't even have the qualifications to challenge the Heaven List at your age. Go back to where you came from. Everyone shook their heads and secretly thought that Long Chen didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Ever since the top 3 of the Heaven List returned from an ancient secret cave a year ago, they had jumped from the 50th place to the top 3. Since then, they had not lost a single battle. It was said that they had obtained many ancient elixirs and even martial arts technique. Their strength could be said to be at the top of the younger generation in various countries. They had even been selected to be the seeded contestants of the 5 great sects on the path of immortal ascension. Under the mocking gazes of the crowd, Long Chen left in a huff. He came to the Alchemist Guild to find out where the top 3 of the Heaven List were. Now that he knew how to meet them, things would be easier. The 3 of them had obtained the God Transformation pills a year ago. Now that they were all God Transformation realm cultivators, they didn't have much need for these pills. With the rarity of these pills, they definitely wouldn't use all of them on the streets. There was an endless stream of people shouting from all directions. With a flash of light, a piece of parchment appeared in Long Chen's hand. Then, he wrote a letter of challenge. With a flash of light at his fingertips, the piece of parchment stabbed into the wall like a sword and floated down with the wind. After doing all this, Long Chen didn't hesitate. He unsheathed his sword and a dangerous aura swept out in all directions. The expressions of the surrounding people changed drastically. They felt their hair stand on end and quickly retreated. With Long Chen as the center, the surrounding streets were suddenly cleared of dozens of meters of space. Only then did everyone turn around to look. Black Dragon Empire's Long Chen, ranked 43rd on the Heaven List, challenges the top 3 of the Deqian Empire. Life and death are not allowed in the Heaven List battle. Everyone read the parchment word by word and their expressions sank. Isn't the 43rd on the Heaven List Kai Huan? Who is this Long Chen? Could it be that he defeated Kai Huan? How old is this guy? I don't know what method this brat used, but no matter what, he's simply courting death today. Even an idiot from the Black Dragon Empire dares to challenge my great Qian Empire. He's truly courting death. Arrogant. He actually dares to set up an arena on the streets of my great Qian Empire. He's just a fellow ranked 43rd. I think he won't even last 3 rounds and he still wants to challenge the top 3 of the Heaven ranking. One of the people from the Alchemist Guild hurriedly reported to the pot-bellied branch president, "President, that brat really doesn't know what's good for him," and went to open the stage. He even directly declared that he wants to challenge the top 3 rankers of the heavenly list. "Since this brat wants to die, it's none of our business. Don't go and watch. I reckon that any random person will send him away. It's fine as long as he doesn't die here. If he dies, I really won't be able to explain it to Lu Tsonglan." The middle-aged man seemed to be very bored. After he finished speaking, he turned around and walked towards the higher levels of the pill tower. On the street, more and more onlookers gathered, and the surrounding streets and restaurants were filled with people. The sounds of ridicule never stopped. A young man from the Black Dragon Empire, who was ranked 43rd on the Heaven ranking, actually wanted to challenge the top 3 of the Big Dry Empire's Heaven ranking. This was simply the biggest joke in the world. In a short period of time, Long Chen became a scene in the Imperial City. However, the people who passed by couldn't stop sneering. Long Chen simply closed his eyes and turned a deaf ear to everyone's words. Time passed by minute. In the blink of an eye, several hours had passed. Finally, a one-eyed beast-clothed man with a crew cut walked out from the crowd. "Everyone make way. It's said that there's an expert from the Black Dragon Empire who is ranked 43rd on the Heaven ranking here?" The man's remaining eye suddenly flashed with a cold light. However, when he saw Long Chen in front of the parchment, he suddenly froze. Soon after, he asked with a strange expression, "You're Long Chen, ranked 43rd on the Heaven ranking?" Long Chen opened his eyes. After glancing at the man, he casually nodded. A few days ago, he defeated Kai Huan at the General Zhenyuan mansion and replaced the 43rd position on the Heaven ranking. Now, it should have been recorded by the organizations in charge of the various empires. I didn't expect Kai Huan to be defeated by a young man in his 20s. How laughable! But it's good. This saves me a lot of effort. Today, I'll defeat you and directly take the 43rd position from 45th on the Heaven ranking. As the man spoke, he walked toward Long Chen. "It's a pity that you can't defeat me." However, just as the one-eyed man finished speaking, his vision suddenly blurred. Long Chen's long sword had already attacked his chest. The man's reaction wasn't fast. A mace had appeared in his hand out of nowhere and directly blocked the attack. At the same time, a powerful divine transformation stage cultivation suddenly spread out. Bang! Then, in the next moment, the one-eyed man's hill-like body flew out like a meteor, crashing heavily into the wall on the other side of the street. The wall, which was several meters long, shattered into countless pieces in an instant, burying him underneath. When the people of the Great Qian Empire saw this scene, they all gasped and their eyes were like pearls. Damn, it's only been a few breaths. This guy is only so strong and he's already been sent flying? 45th on the Heaven ranking? Isn't this guy called the One-Eyed Beast King? Damn, I think he's even worse than a rabbit. He's only 2 ranks lower and he was sent flying with 1 strike. He's really a disgrace to the Great Qian Empire. Long Chen put away his sword and closed his eyes again. Before he had broken through, he could already defeat Kai Huan. Now that he had the strength of 36 dragons and elephants, those who were 2 ranks lower than Kai Huan were even less of a match for him. "Kid, you tricked me. I'm not ready yet." The one-eyed man stood up from the pile of stones. His face was ashen and he was covered in stone chips. He was in a sorry state and shouted in a low voice, as if he wanted to regain some face. Unfortunately, Long Chen didn't move at all. He still stood in the same place and didn't even open his eyes. "Kid, just you wait. Since you shamelessly want to challenge the top 3 of the Heaven ranking, I'll create more opportunities for you. There are at least 10 experts in the top 30 of the Heaven ranking in Xianmen Restaurant. I'll help you find them all. When the time comes, don't run away. Let me see how you die." The one-eyed man saw that Long Chen didn't move and his whole body trembled with anger. However, He didn't dare to approach Long Chen anymore. He could only leave behind a series of harsh words and leave. Kid, don't act tough. Hurry up and run. Those guys are more than 10 ranks higher than you. If you stay, you'll be courting death. It's good enough to defeat one. Does this guy really want to challenge the top 3 of the heaven ranking? Don't meddle in other people's business. I want to see how many rounds this guy can last. Xian Men restaurant isn't far from here. I'm afraid he'll be there soon. There's a good show to watch. More and more people gathered in the surroundings. Once the news spread, the challengers came in an endless stream. Therefore, everyone was full of interest. After all, the heaven-ranking battles weren't something that could be seen at any time. Moreover, this was a battle between 2 heaven-ranking experts from 2 different countries. Get out of the way, get out of the way! The beast-skinned man rudely pushed away the crowd blocking the street. He then said to the 10 people behind him with a flattering smile, "Please take a look. This is the Black Dragon Empire's youngster who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. He even wants to challenge the top 3 of the heaven ranking." Chapter 147. Crawling back, the streets were filled with people. Whether it was in the restaurant or on the roofs, there were people everywhere. Since the one-eyed man brought the dozen people behind him, the crowd was in an uproar. Especially when the silver-white satin young man spoke, the noisy scene calmed down a lot. Long Chen slowly opened his eyes and looked at the dozen soul transformation realm experts behind the young man. A smile appeared on his face. It seemed that the news would soon reach the ears of the top 3 on the heaven leaderboard. Hearing the young man's words, Long Chen replied indifferently, "What kind of ending can there be? The heaven leaderboard challenge, regardless of life or death." Hearing Long Chen's words, the young man's face became extremely cold, as if he was walking on thin ice. The surrounding people were shocked by Long Chen's words and began to discuss in whispers. Is this guy an idiot? He even dares to provoke young Master Yu, who is ranked 8th on the heaven leaderboard. He must be tired of living. Ever since young Master Yu entered the heaven leaderboard, he has been undefeated in more than 10 battles. All of his opponents were dismembered. Don't tell me that this guy doesn't even know him? I think this kid is a hothead. Let alone young Master Yu, I'm afraid he doesn't even know who is on the heaven leaderboard. At the corner of the street, a pot-bellied middle-aged man walked out. The moment he saw Long Chen, his goatee trembled. He never thought that Long Chen would still be undefeated and attract so many heaven leaderboard experts. This kid actually has some strength. I underestimated him. He actually defeated the one-eyed man with one sword. However, he will definitely die if he encounters these people. Their rankings, the goatee president suddenly muttered. Although I don't have much interaction with Lu Tsonglan, we are both branch presidents of the Alchemist Guild. He told me many times to take care of this person. At least, he can't die on the street in front of my pill tower. The goatee president's face was ashen. Seeing that Long Chen and young Master Yu had reached a state of mutual hostility, he hurriedly walked up. He shouted in a deep voice, "Long Chen, have you caused enough trouble? How dare you speak to young Master Yu in such a manner? Quickly apologize, and I'm sure young Master Yu will be magnanimous and let you leave the great Qian Empire." Long Chen looked at the goatee president and frowned. He said in a deep voice, "I have no plans to leave the great Qian Empire. At least, I won't leave before I see the top 3 on the heaven list." After that, Long Chen paused. "Also, I have nothing to do with you. Leave your preaching to others." Long Chen's voice was slightly cold. Ever since he had entered the Pill Pagoda, this person had looked down on him. Now, he was acting like an elder and ordering him to apologize. This made Long Chen very unhappy. The goateed old man's face immediately turned ashen. He was flustered and exasperated. Just as he was about to say something, he heard young Master Yu chuckle beside him. "President Yang, I originally gave him a way out because of you. But now, it seems like he has no choice but to die." Young Master Yu's face suddenly turned serious. He said in a deep voice, "Ding Shi, go and break his legs for me. It's best if you leave him alive and let him crawl back to the Black Dragon Empire." As young Master Yu's voice fell, a strange man with light gray fur walked out from behind him. The man's facial features were extremely small, as if they were squeezed together. It made people feel gloomy and terrifying just by looking at him. "Brat, weren't you very arrogant just now? Let's see how you'll die now." The one-eyed beast skin man sneered. President Yang snorted coldly. He stared coldly at Long Chen and said in a deep voice, "Since you're courting death, then don't blame me. When the time comes, don't kneel down and beg me to save you. The evil you brought upon yourself is the hardest to bear." At the same time, the remaining people behind young Master Yu all stared mockingly at Long Chen. It was as if they were waiting for him to be ruthlessly tortured. Ding Shi, ranked 28 on the Heaven Leaderboard. He possesses the limestone bloodline. His defensive power can be said to be peerless. It's said that his cultivation has reached the 3rd level of the Divine Transformation realm. He once withstood 3 attacks from a 6th-level Divine Transformation realm cultivator without suffering any injuries. This guy is also a killing god. It's said that the people who fought with him all had their limbs smashed to pieces. Therefore, after he stepped into the 28th level of the Heaven Leaderboard, almost no one dared to challenge him. It's not just him. Look behind young Master Yu. These people are all ranked in the top 30 of the Heaven Leaderboard. Moreover, they are all infamous. Ding Shi walked up slowly. He stared at Long Chen and casually said, "Are you going to stretch out your legs yourself, or do you want me to cripple your legs and break one of your arms? When the time comes, you'll have to crawl back to the Black Dragon Empire with one hand. I also have an idea. Do you want to hear it?" Long Chen stared at Ding Shi and sneered. "This is the Deqian Empire. There are so many people here who can destroy you. Then I'll cripple all your limbs. How about it?" Ding Shi's wrinkled face suddenly twisted. He stared at Long Chen and said coldly, "You've completely angered me. Today, you'll have a good taste of the pain of being smashed to pieces." As soon as Ding Shi finished speaking, his left and right hands moved in the air. 2 rays of spiritual light flashed and 2 giant hammers appeared. 1,000 hammer 100 refinement. Ding Shi's twin hammers moved left and right, alternating like shadows. The sound was like the beating of a drum. Rays of gray spiritual light blasted towards Long Chen's legs. Long Chen moved his right hand and slashed out with the hornless dragon sword. 9 transformation sword aura. Rays of sword light shot out rapidly. The blade flashed with a chilling light that made one's heart palpitate. In an instant, all the shadows of the hammers in the sky were destroyed. Then, the sword slashed on Ding Shi's chest and diagonally towards his left leg. The speed was so fast that it was shocking. The surrounding onlookers cried out in surprise. This sword strike was truly breathtaking to the crowd. I didn't expect this kid's swordsmanship to be so strong. I'm afraid his swordsmanship has already reached the level of perfection. Moreover, it seems like he hasn't stepped into the divine transformation stage yet. Is he hiding his strength? However, this alone won't be enough to defeat Ding Shi. Young Master, you seem to be a little surprised. He stared at Long Chen and frowned slightly. Under everyone's gaze, Ding Shi, who was hit by Long Chen's sword, was unharmed except for a small line of blood on his body. Then, Ding Shi said coldly, "I didn't expect you to have some strength. However, if this is all, you're just a piece of trash in front of me." As soon as Ding Shi finished speaking, layers of gray stone armor began to condense on his skin. There was a dazzling gray light coming from it. Under his feet, the ground even cracked like a spider web. Bloodline power? Long Chen stared at Ding Shi and said calmly, "However, its level is too low. It's just a joke to me." Chapter 148. So much for the heaven list. Ding Shi possessed the power of the bloodline. He rarely met an opponent at the 3rd level of the divine transformation realm. Moreover, he had an extremely powerful defense. As Ding Shi rushed out, every step he took caused the ground to shatter inch by inch. As he ran, gray lights scattered in all directions, emitting bursts of rumbling. Bang! The two giant hammers came crashing down on Long Chen. The huge hammer streaked across the sky, and the gray light fell down like a meteor. It fiercely fell on the ground, but Long Chen had already disappeared from his original position. Boom! Boom! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They felt that after Ding Shi used the power of his bloodline, it was as if he had won a battle. His battle prowess had soared, and this hammer strike was truly earth-shattering. Many people even retreated a little. On the left, seeing Long Chen disappear, Ding Shi did not have the slightest fear. Seeing Long Chen's sword stabbing towards his left shoulder, he suddenly turned around. However, something unexpected happened. Ding Shi didn't try to block or dodge Long Chen's attack. Instead, he swung his hammers towards Long Chen's shoulders. Cries of surprise rang out incessantly, and young Master Yu couldn't help but sneer. Ding Shi relied on the power of his bloodline, and his body's defense had reached an astonishing level. Long Chen's sword might not be able to injure him, but once his two hammers hit, Long Chen's arms would most likely be broken. Spirit-breaking sword. Surprisingly, Chang Chen did not retreat at all. Instead, the sword in his hand started to generate a strong gust of wind. Since his speed had increased once again, his sword essence of gale had been fully displayed. Whoosh! Blood splattered everywhere as Ding Shi let out a shrill cry. His entire right arm had been pierced through by Long Chen's sword, and blood gushed out. His left hand was also clamped down by Long Chen's left hand, unable to move an inch. Is this the power of your bloodline that you are so proud of? That's all. Long Chen sneered. Along with Long Chen's voice, the gray light around Ding Shi's wound receded like a receding tide. At the same time, the surrounding people's faces were filled with horror. Even young Master Yu's face became gloomy. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Although Ding Shi's strength was nothing in his eyes, his defensive ability was second to none. Long Chen's sword actually pierced through Ding Shi's shoulder, which was somewhat inconceivable. How could this be? Ding Shi's bloodline power can even block an attack from a late divine transformation stage cultivator. How could this brat break it with a single sword strike? Unbelievable! Not only did it pierce through his shoulder, it seems to have completely suppressed his bloodline power. Did Ding Shi lose? It would have been great if he had just dodged. I'm afraid even he himself didn't think that this young man would be able to defeat him with a single sword strike. How could this be? Even Ding Shi himself couldn't help but exclaim after his death. Perhaps no one knew better than Ding Shi why Long Chen's sword strike had such an effect. This was because this sword strike carried an unparalleled amount of elemental energy, which destroyed all the bloodline power in his body. At this moment, even the spiritual energy in his dantian was suppressed. Enough! At this moment, young Master Yu finally couldn't help but say, I didn't expect you to have some strength. Quickly release Ding Shi. Young Master Yu's voice was very cold. It was as if he felt that Long Chen had made him lose face in the imperial capital. He even couldn't help but curse Ding Shi in his heart for being a good-for-nothing. He actually lost so thoroughly. When Long Chen heard this arrogant and commanding tone, the corner of his mouth became even wider. Not only did he not pull out the sword that pierced through Ding Shi's right shoulder, but he also directly cut through it. Slash. Ding Shi's right arm was cut off at the shoulder. At the same time, young Master Yu's right leg swept across Ding Shi's dantian. The force of tens of thousands of kilograms sent Ding Shi flying like a cannonball. Accompanied by a mournful scream, he landed heavily on the street dozens of meters away. There was a huge crater on the ground that was a few meters deep. This scene happened almost at the same time as young Master Yu's voice sounded. Everyone around didn't even have the slightest reaction. However, after the explosion on the ground, everyone gasped and stared at Long Chen in horror. Now that Ding Shi's cultivation was crippled and his right arm was cut off, he was still a good-for-nothing. This was simply a naked provocation. At the same time, young Master Yu's face was as cold as ice, purple and green. President Yang looked at Long Chen and sneered. In his eyes, Long Chen's actions were simply suicide. I wonder who young Master Yu is going to invite to cripple my limbs and chase me back to the Black Dragon Empire? Long Chen said coldly. Young Master Yu's eyes were like hooks as he stared at Long Chen. After a long while, he suddenly laughed and said, "Very good, very good. Since you want to challenge me, I want to see how many of the people behind me can you defeat. Go up one by one and cripple his limbs. It's best if you pull out his tongue too." Everyone present kept quiet as they noticed young Master Yu's anger. Today, unless Long Chen didn't lose a single battle, he would be consigned to eternal damnation. In front of everyone, Long Chen didn't retreat. Instead, he raised his sword and stared at young Master Yu and said, "So the so-called young Master Yu is just a sharp-tongued person. You called these small fries to their deaths, and you're waiting for the last battle to come up? But no matter, since I'm here to challenge you. I have nothing to fear." The surrounding people were in an uproar. The faces of the 7 or 8 people behind young Master Yu darkened. Every one of them was an expert ranked in the top 30 of the heaven ranking and had quite a reputation in the Deqian Empire. But now, in Long Chen's words, they were just small fries. One of them stood up and said coldly, "Young Master Yu is cultivating a secret technique. If not, killing you would only take a thought. But that's good. You're just a clown. Why would young Master Yu need to personally deal with you?" As he spoke, he walked in front of Long Chen. A 7-foot-long broadsword appeared in his right hand, and he slashed straight at Long Chen. As the broadsword fell, the light from the broadsword streaked across the sky and brought along countless flames. It was extremely terrifying. Flame feather chain slash. As his voice fell, the broadsword danced like the wind. This person leaped up like a bird and countless shadows of the broadsword continuously appeared. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, the ground was filled with devastation. Every flash of the broadsword left a 10-meter-long crack on the ground. Smoke and dust billowed as a flash of sword light soared into the sky. The hornless dragon sword in Long Chen's hand had actually left his hand. It pierced through his chest from bottom to top like a meteor that couldn't be blocked. The second one. Plop. When this person's corpse fell from the sky, his eyes were filled with shock. He used this technique to go on a rampage among those of the same level. Who would have thought that he would be killed by a single sword strike? He didn't even have the chance to unleash dozens of attacks. Chapter 149. Shaking the Deqian Empire. Within the imperial capital of the Deqian Empire, in the royal hunting grounds, a painful roar came from the dark cave. After a long time, a woman with disheveled hair walked out. The woman licked the blood from the corner of her mouth. Under her disheveled hair, there were dark purple veins on the right side of her face that made people's heart palpitate. Upon closer inspection, they looked like strange eyes. "Has young Master Yu arrived?" This time, he said that he could at least find a way to kill a few heaven-ranking experts and give me their flesh. The woman's voice was hoarse but not hoarse. However, it had a tone that made people's hair stand on end. A silver-armored soldier walked over and replied respectfully, "I'm afraid that young Master Yu has encountered some trouble. It is said that there is a young man from the Black Dragon Empire on the streets of the West City. He issued a challenge and threatened to challenge you and the other 2 heaven-ranking experts." Interesting. It has been a long time since someone dared to challenge the 3 of us. How are the results? It's best if you don't kill him and bring him to me. The woman's words had a hint of bloodthirstiness. The soldier paused for a moment and said, "You should go and take a look at the situation yourself. According to the report of the scouts, 7 of the people that young Master Yu brought have already been killed. That Long Chen's name has already shaken the entire imperial capital. Not only in the royal hunting grounds, this scene was also happening in 2 other places within the imperial capital. Long Chen, who was ranked 43 on the heaven ranking, had challenged several heaven ranking experts in the Deqian Empire in a single day. Furthermore, the news of him challenging the top 3 on the heaven ranking had finally spread throughout the imperial capital. Imperial capital, West City, on the street. At this moment, the entire West City was congested. Within the imperial capital, people from all directions were gathering here. There were even people who used the power of arrays to broadcast the scene here. On the streets, there were close to 10 corpses lying on the ground. Every one of them had unwillingness and shock in their eyes. Who is this kid? The corpses on the ground are all heaven rankings top 30 experts. You're the one who squeezed in. Let me tell you, this guy is from the Black Dragon Empire. He was originally ranked 47 on the heaven ranking, but now he is ranked 13. It's not just the top 13. Look at the person with the ugliest expression right now. That's young Master Yu, who is ranked 8th on the heavenly ranking. It seems like he kicked an iron plate today. That's right. So many people he brought with him were all killed one by one. It's simply a loss of face for him. You guys didn't see the scene at the beginning. TSK. In the last few battles, those few people were forced to fight by young Master Yu. The sounds of discussion were endless like tidewater. Long Chen's successive battles without a single defeat caused everyone to be extremely shocked. There were even many people who revealed extremely worshipful gazes. On the heaven ranking, there was no one who could rise more than 30 ranks in a single day. Of course, that was excluding the top 3 of the heaven ranking that the entire Great Qian Empire was proud of: Wind Marquis, Jian Shisan, and the Black Widow. The 3 of them had charged from the 50s of the heaven roll to the top 3 in one fell swoop. At that time, the Big Dry Empire's emperor had conferred them nobility titles. Beside young Master Yu, the Big Dry Empire's Pill Tower's President Yang's expression was incomparably gloomy and extremely ashen. Because this place was too close to the Pill Tower, every word and action of his was clearly seen by the Pill Tower's members. His ridicule of Long Chen was also vivid in everyone's mind. But now, Long Chen had displayed an unimaginable battle strength. President, it seems like the Black Dragon Empire's Pill Tower's President Lu Tsonglan wasn't talking nonsense. This kid really can't be judged by common sense. Perhaps his identity as a king stage alchemist is also true. A Pill Tower's elder said to President Yang in a deep voice. President Yang fiercely looked at this person and said in a cold voice, "So what? He only defeated some deceiving people. Right now, as long as young Master Yu makes a move, he will definitely die." After pausing for a moment, he continued, "Moreover, this person is extremely arrogant. So what if he wins today? From the looks of the current situation, the top 3 on the heaven roll have already noticed and will definitely come. When that time comes, do you think he will still be alive?" When the surrounding people heard this, they felt that what he said was quite reasonable. No matter how strong Long Chen was, how could he be compared to the top 3 on the heaven roll? Perhaps at this moment, it was impossible for him to defeat young Master Yu. On the other side, the Pill Tower's elder shook his head slightly and thought to himself, if it weren't for you not being willing to recommend him, would this kid have set up an arena here? However, at this moment it was useless to say this. Everyone's gaze was now on young Master Yu. Young Master Yu's body seemed to be trembling as if he was suppressing an endless amount of anger. Feeling everyone's gaze on him, he finally opened his mouth. "You have truly angered me. Today I will make you beg for death." As his voice fell, he suddenly stretched his right hand towards his dantian. Immediately, a spiritual light flashed at the tip of his finger, and inscriptions appeared one after another. Then, they distorted and dissipated in the air. I have been practicing this totem C condensing technique for a full year. I didn't expect that I would have to make a move today. Because of you, my efforts this year have been in vain. I will make you pay for all of this with pain. Young Master Yu's killing intent was awe-inspiring. When the surrounding people heard this, they suddenly understood. No wonder the originally famous young Master Yu had been extremely low-key for the past year. It turned out that he had been practicing this technique. At this moment, the technique was broken, and everyone also noticed the changes in young Master Yu. His body seemed to be condensed with a light green wave, and the source of the brilliance was his dantian. However, this brilliance seemed to be dissipating at every moment. Long Chen looked at the bloody sword in his hand and said coldly, "If you had made a move earlier, they wouldn't have died in vain. I wouldn't have wasted so much time just to kill you." Long Chen didn't have a good impression of this young Master Yu, especially the last few people who fought against Long Chen. They clearly didn't dare to fight against Long Chen, but young Master Yu seemed to have grasped some of their weaknesses, which was why they fought with their lives. As Long Chen's voice fell, young Master Yu suddenly stepped forward. The turbulent spiritual power in his dantian swept out in all directions. Many experts around saw through his cultivation at a glance. He was at the 4th level of the Divine Transformation Realm. The 4th level of the Divine Transformation Realm was equivalent to stepping into the middle level of the Divine Transformation Realm. This kind of cultivation was very different from an ordinary 3rd level of the Divine Transformation Realm. Moreover, under the support of the faint light wave, he was probably at the peak of the 4th level of the Divine Transformation Realm, or even stronger. He probably practiced this secret technique to break through the 4th level of the Divine Transformation Realm and step into the 5th level. Chapter 150. Third on the heaven list, black chi rose from the black veined saber, and young Master Jade's body flickered with green light. As the saber slashed down, the surroundings shook. The boundless pressure made it hard for them to breathe. Everyone retreated one after another. Long Chen's expression did not change when he saw this. In the face of such a powerful attack, he did not choose to retreat. Instead, he charged forward. Although his current strength was still in the spirit martial realm, he had the strength to crush the 4th level of the Divine Transformation Realm. After discovering the magical use of Yuanli, he could even fight Xie Jiushan. He really didn't put this so-called young Master Yu in his eyes. Sword intent, 5 elements slash. As Chong Chun shouted, the long sword in his hand danced and created a boundless sword curtain. The 5-colored brilliance was sometimes as swift as the wind and sometimes as fast as lightning. The most terrifying thing within it was an almost invisible and colorless fine origin energy. If one were to observe it carefully, one would notice that even the air was distorted because of it. At the instant when their attacks collided, young Master Jade's countenance drastically changed. His long saber came to an abrupt halt as the sword light was instantly torn apart. How is this possible? Young Master Yu retreated in a panic. The vast and mighty green radiance around him seemed to have been devoured in an instant. It dissipated inch by inch and receded towards his feet like a tide. This sword strike caused countless people in the surroundings to be inexplicably shocked, and they cried out loudly. How could this be? What is this person's cultivation level? He was actually hiding his strength. If he had attacked like this just now, who would have been able to withstand 3 moves from him? Is the power of the fusion of 5 sword intents really so terrifying? He knocked young Master Yu back with 1 strike. Young Master Yu actually suffered a loss in 1 strike. Could it be that this person really has the strength to challenge the top 3 of the heaven leaderboard? Countless cries of surprise and suspicions rose and fell one after another. Long Chen's sword strike that repelled young Master Yu could be said to be universally shocking. Everyone originally thought that Long Chen would not be a match for young Noble Jade. Who would have thought that young Noble Jade would be defeated with just 1 sword strike? This was simply inconceivable. President Yang, who was not far behind young Master Yu, had an ashen complexion. Looking at the strange gazes of the Pill Tower's elders, he felt a burning pain on his face. Under the gazes of tens of thousands of people, young Master Yu's complexion was the same. He did not expect Long Chen's sword strike to break the secret technique that he had cultivated for a year. Although this secret technique was not completed yet, it could increase one's strength by 30% when used. At this moment, it was like a silk net that could not withstand a single blow from Long Chen. Young Master Yu to cultivate to break the young master to use. And young Master Yu, young Master Yu, and young Master, let's. Seeing young Master Yu step forward again, the crowd nodded. Perhaps what young Master Yu said was true. It wasn't that Long Chen was too strong, but that something was wrong with him. Falling young Master Jade seemed to want to save face. Regardless of whether it was the speed or the power of the long saber, it surpassed his previous attack in a short period of time. The saber radiance that filled the sky was at least 30 meters long. The momentum was terrifying. It was as if countless mountains were falling on Long Chen. A cold smile flashed across Long Chen's lips. He kept waving the long sword in his hand and his feet were as fast as lightning. He was strolling leisurely. 10 breaths, 20 breaths, 100 breaths, in the blink of an eye, 100 moves had passed. Young Master Yu's complexion became more and more unsightly. His originally confident and fierce eyes were filled with fear. Within 100 moves, he did not even touch the corner of Long Chen's clothes. Every move was easily blocked by Long Chen. It was as if young Master Yu was a child playing in front of Long Chen. The feeling of powerlessness made young Master Yu tremble. Young Master Yu's 6th grade king-tier martial skill was full of flaws in front of Long Chen. It was a terrifying scene. Is this all you have? Didn't you say that you would make me wish I was dead? Long Chen sneered. His figure suddenly flashed, and he stepped on young Master Yu's shoulder from above. Plop! Young Master Yu wanted to use the spiritual power in his dantian to resist, but in the next moment, he realized that the sea of qi in his dantian was full of holes. Young Master Yu's body landed on the ground and Long Chen continued to step on his body. Long Chen's body was like a mountain. Young Master Yu roared and wanted to stand up, but he realized that he could not move at all. Young Master Yu, who was ranked 10th on the heaven leaderboard, was being stepped on and lost all his dignity. The spectators were unable to accept this scene. Who would have thought that a young man ranked 43rd on the heaven leaderboard in the Black Dragon Empire could kill more than 10 people in one day? Furthermore, he defeated young Master Yu and became one of the top 10 on the heaven leaderboard. When did the Black Dragon Empire have such an abnormal person? It's too scary. Young Master Yu was too arrogant. He has lost today. How old is this guy? It seems that he will be famous in the immortal ascension path. Do you think this guy can challenge the top 3 on the heaven leaderboard? I didn't believe it at first, but now I am not so sure. You are thinking too much. Although young Master Yu is ranked 10th on the heaven leaderboard, it is said that he could not even take one move from the Black Widow and almost lost his life. Under Long Chen's feet, young Master Yu's mouth was bleeding. His eyes were bloodshot as he growled, "I have lost. Let me go. Otherwise, you will not be able to leave my Deqian Imperial City today." Hearing this, Long Chen's feet did not move. Instead, he exerted more force and said, "I think you have not understood your current situation. I do not have the heart of a bodhisattva towards an opponent who wants to kill me and wants to trample me to death." Just as Long Chen finished speaking, the crowd that was as dense as an ant's nest opened up a path big enough for 3 people to pass through. At the same time, there were countless exclamations coming from all directions. A demonic woman with disheveled hair and purple eyes walked over slowly. She was dressed in a black veil and her eyes were fixed on Long Chen from afar. Her eyes were filled with ridicule. third on the Heaven leaderboard, Black Widow. Oh my god, he really attracted the Black Widow, who is ranked third on the Heaven leaderboard. Is he really going to fight with Black Widow? I don't think so. Since this person has already reached the 10th on the Heaven leaderboard, why would he risk his life? Long Chen's eyes gradually moved from young Master Yu to the woman in the black veil. The moment had finally arrived. The first of the top 3 on the Heaven leaderboard had appeared. Save me, Master. At this moment, who would have thought that young Master Yu would actually shout at the woman? The word Master made countless people's jaws drop. Even Long Chen could not help but frown. This guy was ranked 10th on the Heaven leaderboard. How could he be so spineless? Chapter 151. Black Widow in rage on the streets. The sky gradually darkened. The shadow behind the woman in black seemed to be pulled by the setting sun. Under the fluttering black veil, it looked like a black spider baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. Her words sent chills down everyone's spines. It was rumored on the streets that the Black Widow, third on the Heaven list, ate flesh and blood for food. It seemed that the rumors were not groundless. Long Chen's face sank. Consuming flesh and blood was an evil art. How could the Black Widow be so unscrupulous? Was she not afraid that the Deqian Empire would capture her? However, Long Chen was too lazy to care about the Deqian Empire's business. He came here today for the God Transformation pills. If I'm not wrong, your actions today and forcing me and the other 2 top 3 on the Heaven list to appear is because you want the God Transformation pills in our hands, right? The Black Widow's eyes flashed as she chuckled. Long Chen frowned. This Black Widow was not a kind person. Long Chen was not naive enough to think that he could exchange for the God Transformation pills from her. He was already prepared for a big battle. With his cultivation, the Black Widow was not afraid at all. He could defeat her and take her storage bag to obtain the God Transformation pills. No wonder this person set up the arena again and fought so many people alone to draw out the top 3 on the Heaven list. So it was for the God Transformation pills. That's not strange. There have long been rumors that the 3 of them obtained many spirit transformation pills by chance a year ago. In the past year, there have been a few people who tried to buy them from them, but in the end they all failed. The God Transformation pills are priceless. So this is what this kid is thinking. It seems that he is not wholeheartedly trying to challenge the top 3. Everyone discussed and immediately understood the purpose of Long Chen's visit. The God Transformation pills were extremely important to Long Chen. Once he obtained enough God Transformation pills, he would be able to enter the God Transformation realm in a short period of time. At that time, he would be able to open the mysterious place in his sea of consciousness and obtain the number 1 on the Bloodline Azure Sky list, the Heavenly Dragon's Vein. Long Chen was just about to speak when he saw the Black Widow's black gauze moved slightly. In an instant, the black needles fell down like rain. Long Chen subconsciously retreated rapidly, barely dodging the attack. Unfortunately, young Master Yu, who was under his feet, was not so lucky. A miserable shriek rang out in the next moment. When everyone turned around, he was lifted up by the Black Widow. The spirit transforming pill. This thing is expensive, but it is really useless to me. However, I am very interested in you. Since you want it so much, although Black Widow said that, she forcefully stuffed the 3 pills into young Master Yu's mouth. Woo, young Master Yu's pupils dilated and his face was filled with fear. The spiritual power of the 3 spirit transforming pills instantly spread out in his body like a monstrous wave, filling his entire chest and abdomen like a rubber ball. Seeing this scene, Long Chen's face was unprecedentedly gloomy. This woman in front of him was simply a madwoman. The God Transformation pill was a king-grade pill, and ordinary people would need at least a few days to half a month to completely digest it. She was simply trying to make young Master Yu choke to death. Bang! A terrifying scene finally happened. Young Master Yu's body exploded, and his flesh and blood splattered all over the ground. The screams of women came from all directions, and many of them even bent over and vomited. Even some of the burly men turned their heads away with pale faces. Hey, I don't have any more spirit-transforming pills now. What a pity. Black Widow laughed so hard that she rocked back and forth. Her shrill voice made people's scalps tingle. Long Chen looked at the bloodstains on his clothes and coldly stared at the crazy woman in front of him. He said in a deep voice, "No matter, there are still 2 people with spirit-transforming pills. However, perhaps my method was wrong." No one knew what Long Chen meant by that. He turned into a series of afterimages, and with the horned dragon sword in his hand, he appeared beside Black Widow in the next moment. The sword was like a river of stars, and it fell like lightning and thunder. No one expected Long Chen to directly attack Black Widow, who was ranked 3rd on the heaven list. Ka. Black Widow's purplish-black spirit aura soared into the sky, and the image of a black spider appeared around her. It was strange and unpredictable. In particular, her messy long hair expanded in the wind, and blocked Long Chen's sword. When the 2 collided, sparks flew, and an ear-piercing roar sounded. "Interesting, this is really interesting." Black Widow laughed like a crazy woman. "You finally can't hold it in. When you are full of fear, your blood will be even more tempting, ha. Long Chen snorted and said coldly, "It's just some kind of symbiotic spirit energy. Turning yourself into something neither human nor ghost, it's a crooked way." Long Chen's sword became faster and faster, and it became more and more fierce. When he said this, Black Widow's laughter stopped abruptly, and her crazy face became gloomy. She defended against Long Chen's attack and replied, "You actually know about symbiotic spirit energy." Long Chen didn't comment. The reason why Black Widow was like this was related to the soul of a black spider residing in his dantian. Therefore, her spirit energy and personality were completely changed. Long Chen had seen this kind of technique in his previous life, but he always disdained to practice it. Flame sword, soul suppressing. A ray of fire sword essence soared into the sky from the hornless dragon sword. As Long Chen's voice fell, the image of a fire dragon faintly appeared. Chilala. The hard black hair wrapped around Long Chen's sword suddenly began to fall off, and turned into charred ashes. At the same time, there was a surge of spirit energy hidden in each of his sword moves. Flame sword, soul suppressing. This sword skill was of the 8th grade of the king level. In terms of attack power, it wasn't the strongest. Even in his previous life, Long Chen didn't cultivate this sword skill to the stage of perfection, but at this moment, it had an unprecedented effect. This was because the soul-suppressing sword skill could be used directly on spirits. As expected, as Long Chen's sword fell, the black spider spirit energy surrounding Black Widow's body began to waver. Using his divine sense, Long Chen could even clearly feel the roar of the black spider's soul in her dantian. What kind of sword skill is this? Black Widow's face was completely distorted. The purple lines on her face seemed to be alive, and the lines of her eyes seemed to suddenly open. It was extremely terrifying. "I'm going to kill you." Black Widow seemed to feel the pain of the symbiotic black spider's soul in her dantian, and crazily roared. One after another, pitch-black scales began to form around her body. The purple lines on her face completely opened, and there were actually scarlet eyes. This terrifying scene caused screams to come from all directions. Chapter 152. Determined to win. Black Widow, 3rd on the Heaven leaderboard. Her symbiotic spirit made her look like a half-human, half-beast, especially the eyes on her cheeks, which made people shudder. At the same time, her body was covered in terrifying black scales, with layers of sharp spikes. 8 four-segmented limbs grew out of her back, each of them as sharp as a sword. When they landed on the ground, they cut several inches into it. Long Chen coldly snorted, thinking that the Black Widow had cultivated this technique to such a degree that she was no longer a living person. Go to hell, spider strangulation. The Black Widow rapidly pounced toward Long Chen. A long whip appeared in her hand. Spirit light surged on the whip, causing the air to explode. What caused one's heart to palpitate the most was the dark green liquid that constantly dripped from it. The liquid fell on the ground and emitted bursts of black smoke, strongly corroding the ground. Just as she attacked Long Chen, a few drops of liquid were spilled and fell into the crowd, causing the crowd to riot. 2 to 3 spirit martial realm cultivators cried out in pain and turned into a pool of blood. Even the 2 divine transformation realm cultivators were the same. The Black Widow held the long whip and charged at Long Chen. The 8 limbs behind her fell like a storm. For a moment, Long Chen seemed to be wrapped in a huge black shadow, and the sound of metal clanging could be heard. "Quickly retreat, I don't want to die. How can this be? I'm at the 2nd level of the divine transformation realm. I can't die, Quickly retreat, if this goes on, we'll all be poisoned to death. This Black Widow is simply a monster, a lunatic." More and more people were killed by the spilled poison, and the surrounding people frantically retreated. There was not a single person within 10,000 meters of the street. The Black Widow's reputation of being in the top 3 of the Heaven leaderboard was not just in name. Soon, Long Chen's figure was completely submerged in the black shadow, and the ground of the battlefield was completely corroded by the black smoke. President Yang, who had retreated far away, saw such a terrifying scene and became cold. This Black Widow is indeed worthy of being ranked 3rd on the heavenly leaderboard. Even someone in the late stage of the divine transformation realm would be exhausted from dealing with such a concentrated attack. I'm afraid that Long Chen is about to die at this moment. 3rd place on the heaven ranking, there really aren't any ordinary people. This Black Widow is so strong, yet she's only ranked 3rd. Just how strong are the Wind Marquis and Jian Shersan? For a time, everyone in the surroundings sighed endlessly. In their hearts, they thought that today's battle had already come to an end. Long Chen's continuous advancement from 43rd place to 10th place on the Heaven leaderboard had shocked everyone. However, it seemed that it was only a matter of time before he died at the hands of the Black Widow. Seeing that Black Widow's attacks were gradually slowing down, everyone thought that he might not be able to withstand the poison. Bang! However, when the 8 black blade-like limbs stopped, everyone realized that Long Chen was still completely unharmed. Today, if you don't obtain the Divine Transformation Pill, even if you're ranked 1st on the heavenly leaderboard, only death awaits you. Long Chen's voice was like thunder as it spread out in all directions. A killing intent spread out in all directions. With Long Chen's explosive roar, he stepped on the 7-star steps and charged behind the Black Widow. His long sword slashed out, slashing at the 8 limbs. Black blood splattered in all directions, and a boundless killing intent appeared under his sword. This. How is this possible? You actually destroyed my Dantian without me knowing, and even destroyed my spirit. The Black Widow's face completely distorted at this moment. The densely packed eyes on her face gradually became lifeless. She never thought that not only would Long Chen be able to completely defend against her attack, he would even cause her Dantian to be riddled with holes without her even realizing it. What was that tiny wisp of elemental energy? Why did it have this kind of power? Bang bang bang! Long Chen sent the Black Widow flying with a single slash. At this moment, the 8 limbs behind her had all been broken and the wounds were terrifying. The densely packed attacks bombarded Black Widow's body like raindrops. Long Chen displayed an unprecedented combat power. The entire ground, with Black Widow as the center, instantly caved in. The ground within dozens of meters cracked and collapsed inch by inch. The people in all directions were shocked speechless. The sky full of sword rain made everyone tremble in fear. Big Dry Empire, Eastern City, Vast Heaven Restaurant. A cold man with a long sword on his back, wearing hemp clothes, stood in front of the window. His sharp brows were deeply knit as he looked at the array outside. It was Long Chen's figure. Wind Marquis, this little brat is too arrogant, the cold man said in a deep voice. Not far away from him, a green-clothed man slowly walked over when he heard this. He stared at Long Chen, who was on the projection, and said, I think his sword technique is probably not inferior to yours. He used at least 5 king stage martial skills in this battle, and each of them has reached the transformation stage. This person is not simple. Humph. Jian Shisan gave a cold snort but did not say anything. He agreed with what the Wind Marquis said, but his eyes were filled with battle intent as if he wanted to compete with Long Chen. 13. I know you want to compete with this person, but this is not the time. Right now, the most important thing for us is the immortal ascension path. Before that, both you and I must reach the 6th level of the soul transformation realm. The Wind Marquis stared at Long Chen in the image and said thoughtfully. Without waiting for Jian Shisan to reply, the Wind Marquis lightly said, Don't worry. With this person's strength, we will definitely meet again on the immortal ascension path. You won't have to wait too long for your battle with him. When the time comes, I also want to meet him personally. It seems like this person has not used his full strength yet. This person has already said that he is determined to obtain the soul transformation pill. If we don't show ourselves, he will think that we are afraid of him, Jian Shisan said in a cold voice. The Wind Marquis shook his head again and said, These are my remaining 3 soul transformation pills. You should also have 3 in your hands. These things are already useless to us, so just give them to him. You can use this chance to test his strength, but remember, don't fight to the death. Jian Shisan gave a cold smile and his eyes were filled with battle intent. He took the soul transformation pill and rushed out. At this moment, Long Chen was surrounded by stormy waves. The name of Long Chen resounded throughout the entire Deqian dynasty. A youth ranked 43rd on the heaven ranking had killed over 10 people in a single day. He had defeated the Black Widow and become 3rd on the heaven ranking. This was simply a miracle that had never happened before in the heaven ranking. Everyone looked at the bottomless pit in the middle of the street and knew that the Black Widow was already dead. Long Chen stood in the middle of the street and was the center of attention, but he did not have any intention of leaving. The soul transformation pill. This person is actually this obsessed with the soul transformation pill. Could it be that he has not condensed his Qi and stepped into the soul transformation realm? Impossible. This person is this strong, so he must have already stepped into the soul transformation realm. He should be here to get the soul transformation pill for someone else. After all, the immortal ascension path is imminent. This person is definitely not in the spiritual martial realm. However, looking at how little spiritual energy he uses, even his sword glows are very weak. Could it be that he has cultivated some kind of special technique? While everyone was discussing, a youth wearing hemp clothes with long hair fluttering in the wind and carrying a long sword on his back appeared in the sky above everyone. 2nd on the heaven ranking. Chapter 153. Sword competition. After Jian Shisan appeared, his eyes were cold as they instantly fell onto Long Chen's body. He was filled with battle intent. Heaven ranking 2nd, Jian Shisan. He was wearing hemp clothes and had a long sword on his back. You are Long Chen? Jian Shisan's voice was as calm as the surface of a lake as he lightly asked. When the crowd heard this, they felt a chill. Long Chen looked up and down. The long sword in his hand did not move as he coldly replied, Since you have come, then you should know the purpose of my visit today. It is to fight and also to make peace. God transforming pills. There are a total of 6 of these pills. If you can receive 3 of my swords, I will give them all to you today without taking a single coin. Jian Shisan narrowed his eyes as he spoke. The crowd went into an uproar. Jian Shisan's words showed that he was not willing to engage in a heaven-ranking life and death battle with Long Chen. However, receiving 3 of his swords was also a test. It seemed like even the heaven-ranking second was afraid of Long Chen. These three swords, we will only compete in sword intent and sword moves, Jian Shisan said once again. Long Chen revealed a faint smile and nodded his head. If he could receive the god-transforming pills after receiving 3 of his swords, then that would be the best outcome. These two people want to compete in swords. Jian Shisan is rumored to have a sword like a mountain at the age of 5 and comprehended sword intent at the age of 10. His sword arts are all at the level of perfection. He can be considered a sword genius. This Long Chen is also not an ordinary person. The sword he used today killed more than 10 people on the heaven ranking, and he jumped to 3rd place. His sword arts are not below Jian Shisan's. I never thought that Jian Shisan and the Wind Marquis would not be willing to fight. Otherwise, today would be the first heaven-ranking life and death battle in history. Although the crowd was excited and wanted to see Long Chen and Jian Shisan test each other, they also felt that it was a pity that they would not be able to see the life and death battle between the 3 of them today. However, the crowd quickly understood that Long Chen had fought continuously today. If the Wind Marquis and Jian Shisan fought again, it would be unfair. On the other hand, the younger generation of the large countries were preparing for the path of immortal ascension. At this time, it was reasonable for the top 3 of the heaven ranking to retreat. Everyone knew that if they did not fight today, the battles on the path of immortal ascension would be even more fierce battles. The path of the immortal ascension road. The 555 sexes road. When I was 7 years old. 7 I obtained it. 7. 7. The sword in Long Chen's hand shook and he replied, "This sword is called Hornless Dragon. It is 6 feet and 4 inches long and weighs 3,800 pounds. I obtained it a few days ago, so I can barely use it." Jian Shisan nodded his head. He secretly thought that Long Chen was a sword cultivator. His words and actions were all within the rules. But when he said it could barely be used, he felt that Long Chen was arrogant. Hornless Dragon Sword, Dragon Slaying Sword. Today, I will slay the dragon. Jian Shisan roared out. The sword in his hand whistled as it moved. With a point of his finger, the sword rose into the air and soared into the 9 heavens. Sword drawing mountains and rivers. Jian Shisan's finger moved slightly. His expression was arrogant, like a sharp sword piercing the heavens. Above the heavens, the sword images intertwined to form mountains and rivers, stretching for thousands of miles without end. Not bad. Long Chen stood on the ground and looked up. He could not help but exclaim. Jian Shisan's swordsmanship was at least a martial technique of the 6th grade of the king level. The essence of mountains and rivers in his swordsmanship was almost perfect. With his current realm, it was rare for him to have such a high level of sword cultivation. The mountains and rivers in the sky with boundless sword radiance fell like a thunderstorm, covering thousands of miles around Long Chen. His sword moved. 1 sword radiance, 19 provinces. Long Chen raised his sword to the sky and slashed horizontally. At this moment, he did not use his strange original energy. Instead, he fought with his pure sword cultivation. With one sword, the wind and clouds changed color. A sharp essence swept out in all directions. The 5-colored sword essence was like 5 meteors circling and intertwining with each other. It was like a thunderbolt. Crackle, crackle. 1 sword radiance and 5 sword essences tore apart the mountains and rivers in the sky. People in all directions were shocked and lost their voices. At this moment, both of them were not using their cultivation. They were just using their sword moves and sword essences. This scene was terrifying. Boom! The brilliance in the sky dissipated, and 2 long swords appeared in front of the crowd again. Long Chen held his long sword to the sky, and his long robe flapped fiercely. In the sky, Jian Shisan's long sword had returned to his hand. However, at this moment, The demonic beast under his feet kept roaring. Its scaly body was full of sword wounds, and blood kept flowing out. I lost. In terms of sword cultivation, you are above me. Let's not compare our two swords. However, if it is a life and death battle, I am 70% sure that I can kill you. Jian Shisan's voice came faintly. There was an uproar in all directions. Long Chen did not express his opinion. Jian Shisan's understanding of sword essence was not low. It was not an exaggeration to say that he was a genius in sword cultivation. However, in terms of sword cultivation, not to mention the Deqian Empire, there were not many people in the world who could be compared with him. In his previous life, he was proficient in sword cultivation and almost stood at the peak of sword cultivation. This is the soul transformation pill. Take it. On the path to immortality, you and I will have a battle. Jian Shisan raised his hand and threw the pill bottle to Long Chen. He turned and left. Today's battle had finally come to an end, causing everyone to sigh. Sword 13 had actually lost to Long Chen in a battle of the Sword Dao. This was simply unbelievable. Since Jian Shisan's debut, almost no one could surpass him in sword cultivation. However, Long Chen made him retreat with only one sword move. Long Chen held the soul transformation pill in his hand. He could not help but take a deep breath and turn to leave. The crowd subconsciously opened up a path to the two sides. Their eyes were filled with admiration. In a day, Long Chen had rushed from 43rd place to 3rd place on the heaven leaderboard. Moreover, he had forced Jian Shisan to retreat with a single strike. His battle prowess was enough to make everyone bow down. Jian Shisan and Long Chen left one after the other. The entire Deqian Empire was still immersed in the afterglow of Long Chen's feat Puqi. After Jian Shisan stepped on his monster beast and left the crowd, he spat out a mouthful of blood. The monster beast under his feet fell to the ground and died. He involuntarily said, "Sword aura, that was sword aura." Moreover, he fused 5 complementary sword intents. There is actually such a person in this world. Not long after Jian Shisan stopped, a blue-clothed man had unknowingly appeared in front of him. It was the Wind Marquis. The Wind Marquis bent over to help him up. He softly said, "This person must have had a fortuitous encounter, otherwise he would not have this kind of sword cultivation. You don't need to worry about it. Moreover, he killed the Black Widow. Whether he can return to the Black Dragon Empire alive is still a problem." After the Wind Marquis said this, he did not care about the blood splattering everywhere. He carried Jian Shisan on his back and walked off into the distance. Chapter 154. Pursuit Black Dragon Empire. More than 20 days had passed since the Longchen Great Qian Empire Heaven List tournament. Within the Pill Tower, Lu Tsonglan's expression was extremely ugly. Logically speaking, Long Chen should have already returned to the Black Dragon Empire. However, there was no news of him at all. On the day of the Heavenly List tournament, Long Chen won the Soul Formation Pill. With his strength ranked 43rd on the Heavenly List, he crushed Black Widow, who ranked 3rd on the Heavenly List, and forced Jian Shisan, who ranked 2nd on the Heavenly List, to retreat with a single sword strike. His fame spread throughout the various countries. Long Chen's name was also specially marked on the heaven ranking, making him stand at the heart of the storm. Now, Long Chen's name could be heard everywhere in the Black Dragon Empire. "Father, what's wrong? Shouldn't Little Master be back 5 days ago?" Lu Yi asked Lu Tsonglan in confusion. Lu Tsonglan said in a deep voice, "He might be in trouble. At this moment, we can only hope that he can return safely. In the next 2 months, the Black Dragon Empire is going to change." Lu Tsonglan's heart sank to the bottom. He had been inquiring about the Big Dry Empire for the past few days, and only now did he know that the Black Widow was actually the adopted daughter of the Big Dry Empire's king beside the Emperor, Huang Pulei. Although the Black Dragon Empire and the Great Qian Empire were neighboring countries, they were not on friendly terms. Moreover, the Pill Tower had never participated in the internal conflicts of the various large countries. Therefore, they did not know about this relationship beforehand. Huang Pulei was an expert at the peak of the late stage of the divine transformation realm. He had been famous for a long time and was the strongest person in the Great Qian Empire. After a while, Lu Tsonglan shouted in a deep voice, "Men, dispatch all the people above the 5th level of the divine transformation realm to the Great Qian Empire. Search for Long Chen along the way. No matter who the enemy is, we must save him." On the other side, Long Chen was no longer on top of the demonic beast. Instead, he was in a deep mountain range. At this moment, blood was flowing from the corner of his mouth. His face was ashen, and his clothes were covered in filthy blood. On the 4th day after he left the Deqian Empire, he was ambushed. The ambushers were all dressed in black, but every single one of them was extremely powerful. They were all at the 5th or 6th level of the divine transformation realm. There were 15 of them in total, and they were all proficient in battle formations. Every single one of them was fearless and extremely terrifying. The 2 leaders of the group were at the 7th level of the semi-god realm. Long Chen chose to run as soon as he encountered them. No matter how strong he was, there was no way he could survive being besieged by so many people in the late stage of the divine transformation realm. Over the past 15 days, he had been caught 3 times. He had used his powerful divine sense to protect Long Chen, allowing him to escape by a hair's breadth. He had even used the Tao of assassination to kill 3 people in a row. The scars on his body were all left behind by the 3 cultivators at the 5th level of the divine transformation realm. If these guys were only at the late stage of the divine transformation realm, then I wouldn't have to worry about them. Even their battle formation wouldn't pose a threat to me. But their fearless determination is far too terrifying. These people must be seasoned soldiers. Long Chen didn't dare to stop at all. In his heart, he had the most basic judgment of these people. He knew that the root of all this was probably related to his challenge in the Deqian Empire. Although there was an agreement between the countries that there was no limit to life and death in the Heavenless Challenge and that the countries couldn't retaliate, the reality was that it was impossible to prevent it. Now I'm still at the 36th level of the spiritual martial realm and haven't stepped into the divine transformation realm. These people are all in the late stage of the divine transformation realm. The difference between us is too great. If there were only a few of them, I wouldn't be afraid, but if there were 15 of them, it's very likely that I'd be destroyed along with them. Long Chen looked at the divine transformation pills in his hand. He knew that if this continued, he wouldn't be able to reach the Black Dragon Empire. At this moment, he could only rely on himself. As long as he broke through to the divine transformation realm, he had absolute confidence that he could kill all these people. 3 days, Long Chen would need at least 3 days to digest the 6 divine transformation pills. But now, he couldn't even get 3 minutes of free time, let alone 3 days. The people behind him were simply a bunch of lunatics. Rumble. While Long Chen was thinking, more than a dozen towering spiritual lights slanted down from 100 meters behind him. The giant trees in all directions were instantly crushed into powder. Long Chen's figure suddenly burst out and dodged by a hair's breadth. After a few moves, he disappeared again. A black-clothed man holding a long sword said in a deep voice, "This kid is really terrifying. No wonder he could defeat the princess." 15 of us in the late stage of the divine transformation realm were chasing after him. He could actually last for more than 10 days. Not only that, we thought the mission would be easy, but now we've lost 2 in the 5th level of the divine transformation realm and 1 in the 6th level of the divine transformation realm. It's like this kid has eyes on the back of his head. No matter how we surround him, He can always dodge in the first moment. As the black-clothed middle-aged men rushed forward, they were inexplicably surprised by Long Chen's combat strength, especially his almost abnormal insight. However, they also knew that if they continued to chase Long Chen like this, sooner or later they would die. This was because the direction Long Chen was moving in had changed because of their roundabout encirclement. How could Long Chen not know the purpose of these people's roundabout encirclement every time? However, he had to dodge. If it weren't for this powerful divine mind, he would have been surrounded a long time ago. Time flew, and in the blink of an eye, another 3 days had passed. At this moment, 3 terrible wounds on Long Chen's back were bleeding profusely, and another of the 12 divine transformation realm assassins behind him had died. What is this kid trying to do? If I remember correctly, this direction is where the overturning sky cliff is. The leader of the black-clothed men saw Long Chen suddenly change direction and was shocked. Another person heard this and was overjoyed. He said, "This person is from the Black Dragon Empire. He may not know about this place at all. As long as we force him here, today will be the day he dies." Yes, the death aura of the overturning sky cliff is surging. This is the season of eruption. He will die if he goes there. Let's end this quickly. We've wasted too much time. I'm afraid the king is already angry at this moment. After some discussion, they sped up again. They couldn't wait to get rid of Long Chen. However, Long Chen's idea was the exact opposite of these people. While he was still far away, he discovered the abnormality of this place with his divine mind. The formless death aura above this place was deposited. Whether it was a cliff or not, Long Chen had to go there because he had a way to delay time in his heart. That was a formation, the Death Spirit Sealing Formation. Once this formation was formed, it could delay for at least 3 days. This time was enough for Long Chen to step into the Divine Transformation Realm. As long as he stepped into the Divine Transformation Realm, everything would be solved. As Long Chen walked toward the overturning sky cliff, he took out more than 10 spirit stones and quickly carved them. Chapter 155. Besieged Sky Flipping Cliff. In the sky above, streaks of black aura shot out from the bottom like ghost faces, passing through the top of the cliff before disappearing into the horizon. After each streak of death aura, the sky seemed to darken a bit. The dense death aura made people's hearts palpitate. Long Chen, surrender yourself. This is a dangerous place. It seems like today is the will of the heavens. The leader of the black-clothed men shouted, his voice filled with killing intent. Several people sneered, then surrounded Long Chen on 3 sides. At this moment, behind Long Chen was an endless abyss of death aura, sky-flipping cliff. If I'm not wrong, you're all soldiers. I just don't know which general of the Big Dry Empire wants me dead? Long Chen asked coldly. Several people looked at each other. After chasing for so many days, they finally forced Long Chen to his death. Their mood was surprisingly good. What's the harm in telling you? The Black Widow is my master, the adopted daughter of King beside the Emperor. My master thought he was hunting in the royal hunting grounds. I never thought he would be killed by you. Long Chen turned to look at sky flipping cliff below, stared at several people and coldly said, King beside the Emperor? I'll remember it. As Long Chen's voice fell, he directly jumped off the cliff behind him. This situation made everyone stunned. After chasing for a few days, these people understood Long Chen's ruthlessness and methods, but they never thought that Long Chen would choose to jump off the cliff to commit suicide. But they quickly found a problem. The bottom of the cliff that was originally filled with black aura was suddenly filled with black aura, like a pot of boiling oil. When they walked forward and took a closer look, they discovered that Long Chen was among them. Lines after lines of death aura, the death aura cycled back and forth like countless dead spirits roaring, and Long Chen was actually standing in the air like this. Dead Spirit Sealing Array. Long Chen used this array to seal a large amount of death aura, condensing the array as he fell, and he was currently standing in the array's life gate. You actually know about formations." The black-clothed men stared at Long Chen with eyes as sharp as knives. They had never thought that Long Chen would be able to form a formation during his descent. Furthermore, he was able to rely on the formation to stand in the middle of the formation as if he were walking on flat ground. "Brat, so what if you have this formation? How long can you last? It's still a dead end." The black-robed man frowned and gave the others a look. Then, everyone began to attack one after another. Rays of spiritual light blasted towards the formation. However, it was a pity that Long Chen was still slowly sitting in the array formed by the death aura. This formation used the Qi of death as its foundation. These people were only at the soul formation stage, so it was naturally impossible for them to destroy the formation. With their spiritual energy, it would take them at least 3 to 5 days to attack from a distance. No one expected Long Chen to sit down at this time as if there was no one around. What happened next made them stop their attacks. Long Chen took out 6 soul formation pills and held them in his hand. What is he doing? Is he not at the soul formation stage yet? How is this possible? This person's combat strength should be at least at the 5th level of the soul formation stage. Otherwise, how could he kill so many of us? So this guy killed a warrior at the late stage of the soul formation stage with his spiritual martial realm cultivation? This is simply a fantasy. This guy swallowed all 6 soul formation pills at once. Everyone was shocked. Under everyone's watchful eyes, Long Chen swallowed all 6 soul formation pills at once. This was simply a suicidal act. Swallowing so many high-grade pills at once was enough to make one's entire body explode. However, they were shocked once again. Not only did Long Chen show no signs of exploding, but there was a rumbling sound coming from inside his body. Pure spiritual light enveloped his entire body. At this moment, everyone was inexplicably horrified. Not only did Long Chen not reach the soul formation stage, but he also swallowed 6 soul formation pills at once. This scene made them fearful. "Give it to me, boom!" More than 10 men in black bombarded the formation from afar with their spiritual martial realm cultivation. However, no matter how they bombarded, the black gas outside the formation was constantly replenished. Minutes and seconds passed. Everyone's foreheads were gradually filled with sweat, but the formation Long Chen was in still did not weaken at all. The leader of the group, a man in black, said in a deep voice, "Save your combat strength. I don't believe that even though he has reached the soul formation stage, he can kill more than 10 of us head-on. Guard all the places. This time, we must not give him a chance to escape." Everyone clearly knew that this formation could not be broken in a short period of time. Instead of wasting their spiritual power, it was better to wait for the formation to disperse. Some of them even laughed at themselves. Although Long Chen's cultivation was strange and his combat strength was monstrous, no matter what, it was impossible for him to survive under the combined attacks of the 2 of them. The few of them found a place to sit down and began to restore their spiritual power. In the blink of an eye, it was the 3rd day. More than 10 people had recovered to their peak condition. At this moment, Long Chen still did not move at all. He was still sitting cross-legged in the same place. "Big brother, you guys sit here for now. I'll go find some fun for you guys. When I came just now, I saw a group of people not far away." One of the men in black laughed and said, "Fourth brother, we still have a mission. Don't go overboard." The leader frowned and shouted. The man in black who was called Fourth brother laughed and said, "I think this formation will not disperse in a short period of time. I'll be back soon." As he said that, he actually rushed into the distance. "Big brother, just let him go. You know Fourth brother's temper. When we were still Kiliarchs, he harmed many women. These days, he has been holding it in." The leader shook his head and did not say anything else. Time flew by quickly. After a few hours, a series of painful cries sounded in everyone's ears. They saw the man who had just left return with his clothes in a mess. Behind him, there was a long rope pulling two women in beast clothes. The women's appearances were not beautiful, but they were not ugly either. They should be the women of a hunter's family in the mountains. Big brother, these two are for you to enjoy. Since this brat doesn't come out, let him stay inside and watch the show. Ha ha! Fourth brother kicked the two women out from behind him. The two women's faces were full of fear. Seeing that everyone was in black, they cried until they were hoarse. Sirs, please be merciful and let me and my sister go. We are just hunters at the foot of the mountain. We just passed by here. I beg you, let me and my sister go. The two women cried silently, but unfortunately, there was no pity in the eyes of the people. This group of beasts have become soldiers. Have they lost their humanity? Chapter 156. The Period of Divinity. On the cliff, a few men in black tore the clothes of the woman violently, revealing a large area of snow-white skin. One of them was directly pushed to the edge of the cliff. The black-clothed man at the side sneered at Long Chun. Coward, are you still not willing to come out? Do you think that you can survive the attacks of more than 10 of us just because you've reached the divine transformation stage? Quickly come out and accept your death. Although you are a genius, you are facing a great disaster today. Why waste everyone's time? The black-clothed men spoke one after another. As they spoke, two men took off the veils on their black robes and pounced on the woman. One. However, at this moment the entire world seemed to have fallen silent. Everyone at the top of the cliff suddenly tore off their black veils, revealing their ferocious faces. Their eyes were filled with pain as they held their heads tightly with their hands, as if they were experiencing unprecedented pain in their heads. 11 people besieging him? You think too highly of yourselves. Although I'm only half a step away from the divine transformation stage, I'm more than enough to kill you all. Long Chun leaped up and stood in front of everyone. What is going on? Half a step into the divine transformation realm? He's only half a step away from the soul formation stage. How can he have such powerful divine will? A man in black at the 4th level of the divine transformation realm spat out a mouthful of blood as he stared at Long Chun, who was slowly approaching him. In the divine transformation realm, one would use the power of dragons and elephants to condense the sea of qi, and spiritual awareness would be born. Although the people present were all in the divine transformation realm, their spiritual senses had only just been activated. Their 5 senses were several times stronger than those in the spirit martial realm. However, facing Long Chun made them tremble from their souls. At this moment, everyone's pain came from the suppression of the divine sense. They couldn't understand how a half-step divine transformation stage cultivator could suppress them to the point of suffocation. Since you want to know so much, I'll let you die knowing why. As Long Chun spoke, he killed the 2 men in front of the 2 women. Then, the phantoms of dragons and elephants behind him spread out. There were a total of 18 of them. Immediately after, the image of a vast ocean flashed before everyone's eyes. This was the image of Long Chun's Qi Sea, a Qi Sea that was only half condensed. What kind of monster are you? You're half a step away from the divine transformation stage, but you still have the power of 18 dragons and elephants left. This is impossible. Can someone in the spirit martial realm really reach this level? No wonder you have such powerful combat strength. Even with the power of the dragon and elephant, you're still comparable to someone at the 5th tier of the divine transformation realm. And that vast ocean just now, is that your phantom sea of qi? At this moment, all the men in black were enduring the pain as they stared blankly at Long Chun. It was as if they were staring at a monster. They knew that they would definitely die today, but all of this was too unbelievable. To be able to see the shadow of a 25,000-mile qi sea, it can be considered your good fortune, Long Chun said calmly. As soon as he finished speaking, Long Chun swung his long sword lightly. A faint spiritual aura blew past like a cool breeze, and he swaggered off. Plop, more than 10 men in the late stage of the divine transformation realm fell heavily to the ground one by one as a line of blood appeared on their throat. The two women were so scared that they couldn't speak. After a long while, they stood up in a panic and kept kneeling in the direction Long Chen left. I've finally reached the divine transformation realm. Although I'm only half a step away from the divine transformation realm, as long as I return to the Pill Pagoda and have enough spiritual power to support it, I can completely reach the divine transformation realm. Long Chen's fingertips flashed with spiritual aura. Long Chen flew towards the Black Dragon Empire. On the 7th day, he met the experts sent by the Pill Pagoda. This made Long Chen have a better impression of Lu Tsonglan. Greetings, Master Long Chen. The President's feat in the Great Qian Empire has already spread to the Black Dragon Empire. Now, the 3rd place on the heavenly ranking has even shocked the Emperor. Long Chen smiled faintly and nodded. Under everyone's respectful gazes, he stepped onto the demon beast and headed towards the Black Dragon Empire. As for the 3rd place on the heavenly ranking and the Emperor, he didn't care at all. With his current cultivation level of half a step away from the divine transformation realm, no one under the 5 great sects could be his opponent anymore. Black Dragon Empire. After Long Chen entered the imperial capital, he immediately headed towards the Pill Pagoda. Brother Long Chen, you're finally back. Lu Tsonglan greeted him warmly. Long Chen nodded and smiled. President, you're worried. I have one more thing to ask of you. Lu Tsonglan was startled. Then, he realized that Long Chen's aura was fluctuating incessantly. Even his spiritual power was sometimes high and sometimes low. He was on the verge of a breakthrough. Lu Tsonglan immediately laughed and said, Congratulations, Brother Long Chen. You just have to go into seclusion. No matter how many pills you need, I'll prepare them for you. 10 days is enough. Long Chen turned and left. At this moment, the only thing in his mind was to completely reach the divine transformation realm and reappear the secret realm of the Dragon Palace in his mind. The heavenly dragon bloodline, the most mysterious bloodline in the 10 Directions celestial domain, ranked first on the bloodline ranking list. What was it like? The moment Long Chen returned to the Pill Pagoda, he was already sitting in the cultivation room. However, he did not know that the monarch of the Black Dragon Empire, Qin Qing, and many other princes had arrived one after another, not long after, outside the Pill Pagoda. The entrance of the Pill Pagoda, which was originally crowded with people, was now in an orderly manner. A passageway extended directly. At the end of the passageway, Qin Qing and the other princes were walking towards the Pill Pagoda. Why did the monarch come to the Pill Pagoda personally? And so many princes? You don't know about this, right? Master Long Chen is back. It's said that he rushed from 43rd place to 3rd place on the heaven ranking list in one day. He even defeated the 2nd place on the heaven ranking, Jian Shisan. Even so, there's no need for the monarch and so many princes to come together. Hearing everyone's guesses, Qin Qing's footsteps sped up again. Just as the crowd said, if Long Chen was only 3rd place on the heaven ranking list, although he would receive him personally, it would not be like this. However, after the battle in the Deqian Empire, he recorded all of Long Chen's actions in the imperial capital. Only then did he discover a terrifying fact: Long Chen was not only a powerhouse on the heaven ranking list, he was also a thorough king stage alchemist. His cultivation in array formation was even higher than Oyezi's. A young man with monstrous combat power was also second to none in the world, as well as a rare array formation master. Such a status was enough to make him, the monarch, bow down. When Lu Tsonglan saw that Qin Qing had come personally, he could not help but frown. He said, "Could it be that you're all here to see Long Chen? Then you'll be disappointed. He's going to be in seclusion for 10 days. After the disagreement in the 100-Mile Valley, Lu Songlan's words were not respectful. However, Qin Qing did not seem to notice and replied, "Then I'll wait here for him to come out of seclusion." At this moment, the princes were also aware of Long Chen's ability. Their eyes were filled with anticipation, and some even planned to use all means to win him over. Only one person was different. This person was the current crown prince, Qin Feng. Chapter 157. Heaven's Jealousy. When Long Chen returned to the Black Dragon Empire, the emperor of the empire, Qin Qing, as well as the various princes and high-ranking officials, all gathered at the Pill Pagoda. The entire Black Dragon Empire was in an uproar. More and more people rushed toward the Pill Tower. They wanted to see this rare occasion. Who is this person? He actually made the monarch and so many other princes come here personally. It's said that he wants everyone to wait for 10 days. Haven't you heard? This person reached third place on the Heaven leaderboard in a single day and defeated the second place on the Heaven leaderboard, Jian Shishan, with a single strike. He's the #1 genius of the Black Dragon Empire. That's not all. It's said that he's also a Grandmaster-level alchemist from the Pill Tower. He can refine king-level pills. Pill addict Louis is his disciple. The sounds of discussion were endless. Long Chen's name had long since shaken the imperial capital. Inside the Pill Tower, the first prince stared at Lu Songlan and the others and said in a low voice, "This Long Chen is too arrogant. My imperial father personally came to see him, and he actually wants us all to wait for 10 days. The crown prince is right. Although Long Chen's talent is not low, he is still a citizen of the Black Dragon Empire. How can he neglect the emperor?" One of the officials echoed. Lu Songlan said in a low voice, "Long Chen is a Grandmaster alchemist of the Pill Tower. If you don't want to wait, you can leave." The eldest prince and the others were furious, but there was nothing they could do. Just as they were about to speak, Qin Qing waved his hand. "There's no need to say more. Since he's going to practice in seclusion for 10 days, I'll wait for him here for 10 days. If you don't want to wait, you can leave," Qin Qing said. The first prince's face was ashen, and the other princes were also extremely puzzled. Although Long Chen's reputation had spread far and wide, for him to speak in such a Qin Qing manner was somewhat incomprehensible. Of course, since Qin Qing was unwilling to leave, even the first prince had to stand to the side and wait. Lu Songlan couldn't help but smile when he saw the Black Dragon Empire's officials, princes, and even the current emperor standing in a group inside the Pill Tower, waiting for Long Chen to come out of seclusion. Within the cultivation room, Long Chen was constantly being fed pills from the outside world, and he was on the verge of a breakthrough. 18 dragon elephant phantoms were undulating behind him. Streams of spirit energy were emitted from his body like rivers, interweaving into a huge whirlpool and finally converging above his dantian. The 18 dragonesque elephant phantoms dissipated one by one, and the spiritual energy around him became denser. The sea of qi in his dantian gradually began to condense again. 51,000 li. 53,000 kilometers. Time ticked by, and on the 7th day, the Black Dragon Empire's originally cloudless sky was suddenly covered by dark clouds. Layers of black clouds spread out from the Pill Pagoda. The sky was still clear in the distance, but the sky above the Pill Pagoda was still as dark as ink. Rumble! In the imperial capital, countless people walked out of their rooms and looked at the sky. Lightning flashed and thunder roared, making them tremble with fear. What's going on? The rainy season of the Black Dragon Empire will only arrive in half a year. Why are there dark clouds covering the sky today? Look, the dark clouds are so strange. They are like layers of a whirlpool, and the center of the whirlpool seems to be where the Pill Pagoda is. Within the Pill Pagoda, Qin Qing and many other princes and officials were discussing spiritedly. They were shocked by the strange phenomenon in the sky, but they didn't know why. The first prince stood outside the Pill Pagoda and looked at the dark clouds in the sky. He asked in a deep voice, "What's going on? Why did the sky suddenly change and gather at the Pill Pagoda? Could it be because of him? When there is a strange phenomenon in the sky, there must be a strange person. I'm afraid this person is not simple. The elders specially asked the two of us to come from the 5 great sects to help you get rid of him. Qin Feng, you'd better find an opportunity quickly. Otherwise, there might be changes. The 2 attendants behind Qin Feng directly called out his name and looked up at the sky in warning. Qin Feng's brows furrowed tightly. He didn't think that his master would invite 2 disciples at the soul formation pinnacle stage to help him. Are the 2 of you really confident? This Long Chen displayed extremely powerful combat prowess in the past. Even Xie Jiushan, who was at the soul formation final stage, was no match for him. Now that he has made a breakthrough, he couldn't help but ask as he looked at the dark clouds in the sky. One of them sneered and said in a cold voice, "If it weren't for the fact that the Elder wants to push you to the throne of the Black Dragon Empire, I would be able to get rid of this person right now. The 2 of us can fight a return to Void Stage cultivator together." After hearing their words, Qin Feng nodded slightly. Just as he was about to speak, he saw a soldier flying toward the Pill Pagoda. The soldier rushed into the interior and knelt before Qin Qing. "Reporting to your Majesty, the prince beside the Emperor of the Great Qian Empire has led 100,000 elite soldiers into the territory of the Black Dragon Empire." Everyone was shocked after hearing the soldier's words. The Great Qian Empire was the neighbor of the Black Dragon Empire and was the leader of all the countries. There were constant conflicts with the Black Dragon Empire. However, their arrival today made everyone feel uneasy. Could it be that the rumors are true? Is the Black Widow really the adopted daughter of the prince beside the emperor? But isn't his way of doing things a little too crazy? A general in armor shouted. Even Qin Qing's face darkened. He said, "The Heaven Roll Challenge doesn't involve life and death. The Great Qian Empire wants to break the rules and ignore the agreement between all the countries." The messenger soldier trembled for a moment before continuing, It's said that the prince beside the emperor said that when Long Chen left the Great Qian Empire, he wanted to assassinate him and killed more than 10 of his generals. The corpses of those generals have been brought over. The crown prince said to Qin Qing, "Father, the Great Qian Empire's national strength is several times that of our Black Dragon Empire. The prince beside the emperor and his brother each own half of the country. It's unwise to start a feud now." "Big brother, what do you mean? Could it be that you want father to hand over the number 3 genius of the Black Dragon Empire's heaven roll? If that's the case, where will the dignity of our Black Dragon Empire be?" The 3rd prince shouted. "Not far behind the crown prince," Oyezi sneered. "Could it be that the 3rd prince wants to start a war with the Great Qian Empire for this guy? Enough. Stop quarreling. Long Chen will come out in 3 days. Let's wait until he comes out and understands the whole story. The path of immortal ascension is about to open. The prince beside the emperor definitely won't dare to start a war. There's no need to care about him." Qin Qing shouted. His gaze was fixed on the secret room where Long Chen was. The sun rose and set. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, the weather changed. Dark clouds covered the sky for thousands of miles in the Black Dragon Empire. Thunder roared incessantly and heavy rain poured down. Rumble! A loud explosion came from the secret room. The entire Pill Pagoda shook violently. Countless people's faces changed. Rumble! Rumble! Lightning filled the sky and struck down from the 9 heavens. Their target was the Pill Pagoda. Long Chen came out of his seclusion. The heavy rain and the lightning were like blades. It was as if they had eyes. They all attacked Long Chen in the Pill Pagoda. Wherever they passed, all living things were exterminated and buildings collapsed. Chapter 158. Thunder Huangpu Rumble. Nearly half of the entire 7th floor of the Pill Pagoda was destroyed. Qin Qing and the many people who had been waiting quickly retreated. The moment Long Chen walked out of the secret room, Everyone felt their souls tremble. Thunderclouds rolled and surged. Countless bolts of lightning and even a violent storm rained down on Longchen. The Pill Pagoda was in utter chaos. What exactly is going on? Why are all these lightning bolts surging towards the Pill Tower? Qin Qing looked at the 7th level of the Pill Tower where the rolling black lightning bolts were. He could not help but turn pale with fright. Such terrifying power was probably enough to destroy anyone in the divine transformation realm. Everyone was shocked. On the contrary, the imperial advisor who had been silent all this time slowly walked out. He stared at the place where the lightning gathered and said, "This person is envied by the heavens." Heaven was jealous. Everyone felt their minds explode as they gasped. The two men behind the first prince looked at each other, their eyes filled with killing intent. In front of everyone's eyes, a figure slowly walked out of the Pill Pagoda. Around him, there was a thunderstorm, and the wind was as sharp as blades. Disperse! Just as the entire imperial capital was looking at the Pill Pagoda, a sword shadow slashed out from within, and a sword ray shot straight into the clouds. Above the vault of heaven, the dark clouds for thousands of miles instantly spread out from the middle. Dazzling rays of light once again sprinkled onto the ground, the sound of thunder dissipated, and the heavy rain instantly stopped. Countless gazes were fixated on that figure. Long Chen leaped down from the Pill Pagoda and slowly walked in front of everyone. Lu Tsonglan walked at the front and muttered, "You, that sword strike just now was from you?" Long Chen nodded and replied, "It's just that the Pill Pagoda is severely damaged. I'll bear all the cost." Lu Tsonglan stared at Long Chen in a daze. Although the truth was right in front of him, he found it rather difficult to believe that Long Chen was the one who had delivered the shocking strike. He had just broken through the spirit martial realm and stepped into the semi-god realm. That sword was actually able to contend against the might of heaven and earth. Was this really something that could be done by a human? Qin Qing walked up and said to Long Chen, "You've finally come out." When Long Chen saw Qin Qing, he frowned slightly and said indifferently, "I wonder why the monarch is looking for me?" Qin Qing asked, "I've heard that your alchemy skills are incredible. I wonder if you could refine a pill for me." Unfortunately, before he could finish speaking, Long Chen interrupted him and said, "Yes, but it's useless. Your illness is beyond cure, and there's no medicine that can cure you. At most, you have 1 more month to live." Thud thud. As soon as Long Chen finished speaking, Qin Qing took a few steps back. His face suddenly turned pale, and he couldn't stop coughing. "How dare you? How dare you speak to Imperial Father like that?" Qin Feng shouted. Long Chen glanced sideways and coldly glanced at Qin Feng. His voice was as calm as water as he said, "How dare you speak to me like that?" As soon as Long Chen finished speaking, a vast pressure swept out from his body. In an instant, it landed on Qin Feng's body like a raging tide. Bang! Qin Feng's face suddenly turned as white as a sheet of paper. His body trembled uncontrollably, and he knelt on the ground directly. Even the 2 men behind him who were pretending to be his servants couldn't help but take 2 steps back. "Impudent! You dare attack the first prince?" Oyezi shouted. The generals were even more hostile. They walked in front of Qin Qing and the other princes and stared at Long Chen. In an instant, the Pill Pagoda was confronting Qin Qing and the others. Long Chen's figure disappeared in an instant. When he reappeared, he was already standing beside Oyezi. He said coldly, "Did I allow you to speak?" As soon as Long Chen finished speaking, he waved his hand and Oyezi was sent flying. He heavily hit the hard wall, and blood spurted out wildly. "Enough!" Qin Qing seemed to have lost all his strength. He said in a low voice, "All of you back down." After he finished speaking, Qin Qing seemed to have lost all his strength. He seemed to have aged a little. He looked at Long Chen. After a long while, he actually bowed to Long Chen and said in a low voice, "I wonder if you are willing to be the military advisor of the Black Dragon Empire." As long as you agree, you can take the resources of the Empire at will. You will be second only to me and above everyone else. Qin Qing's words stunned everyone. He actually wanted to invite a young man who was not even 20 years old to be the military advisor of the entire Black Dragon Empire. He wanted to be the leader of the entire empire. The expressions of the princes changed. If Long Chen took over the position of the military advisor, then after Qin Qing's death, the person he supported would most likely become the emperor of the empire. However, in the face of such temptation, Long Chen calmly shook his head. His meaning was self-evident. Qin Qing smiled bitterly and shook his head. He said, "I hope you will consider it more. Although there are many opportunities in the sect, there are also countless dangers. Many geniuses have fallen." Long Chen still shook his head and replied, "My ambition does not lie here. There is no need to say more." Qin Qing heard this and wanted to say something more. However, he heard the roars of demonic beasts in the distance. One after another, flying demonic beasts flew towards the Pill Pagoda. The leader of the demonic beasts was wearing a tiger-dragon robe. He was as tall as a small mountain, and his eyes exuded a noble aura. He shouted from afar, "Qin Qing, it seems that the Black Dragon Empire is getting worse by the day. I didn't encounter any obstacles on my way here." Qin Qing looked over and his face became extremely gloomy. He coldly said, "Emperor beside the Emperor, Huang Puliai." Bang bang bang. Huang Puliai ignored Qin Qing's expression. A spiritual light flashed in his hand and corpses fell in front of everyone. Apart from the fact that these corpses had changed their clothes, their appearances were the same as the group of people who had chased after Long Chen. "Qin Qing, since I have come here today, I must succeed. I must kill this guy named Long Chen," Huang Puliai said coldly. As his voice fell, the 100 or so people behind him released their auras. For a moment, the air shook and everyone present gasped. There were more than 100 late divine transformation stage cultivators. Qin Qing's face was also ashen. He knew that Huang Puliai was so unscrupulous because he knew that the Black Dragon Empire wouldn't dare to do anything to him. Otherwise, he would face endless attacks from the Deqian Empire. Huang Puliai, he is a member of the Black Dragon Empire and ranked 3rd on the heaven roll. You are really going to tear up the agreement between the countries?" Qin Qing said coldly. Huang Puliai didn't answer at all. He only said indifferently, "Today, I only want Long Chen's head. I, Huang Puliai, have no children. I only have one adopted daughter who has followed me for 20 years. She must not die in vain." The eldest prince couldn't help but sneer. It seemed that he didn't need to do anything. Long Chen was probably going to die in Huang Puliai's hands today. Everyone present was discussing spiritedly. Long Chen was definitely going to die today. More than 100 late divine transformation stage cultivators were an unstoppable force. Chapter 159. A graceful sword. Lu Songlan's words carried a lot of weight. In fact, even Huang Pu Lei didn't expect that Long Chen was actually a king stage alchemist. He was really too young. Guild leader Lu, Huang Puliai, naturally wouldn't dare to offend the Pill Tower. However, this person isn't even 20 yet you claim that he's a king stage alchemist? Wouldn't that be a joke? Huang Pu Lei said as he stared at Long Chen. But when he saw Long Chen, he frowned. This young man was too calm, so calm that it was somewhat frightening. Seeing that Lu Songlan was about to say something, Long Chen slowly walked out from behind him. "So you're king beside the emperor. If it weren't for the fact that I'm in a hurry to reach the divine transformation stage, perhaps I would have gone to find you when I was killing these people. Now that you've come to me yourself, you've saved me a lot of trouble." Long Chen's words made everyone stunned. Huang Puliai, who was on the flying demon beast, looked at Long Chen as if he had heard the biggest joke in the world. This was Huang Pu Lei, the king of the Great Qian Empire, a late-stage soul transformation realm expert.
Looking for me?
You've just stepped into the divine transformation realm, so what if you have heaven-defying battle prowess? So what if you can summon a heavenly anomaly? Today, I'd like to see how you're going to kill me. Huang Pu Lei shouted coldly. As soon as his voice fell, the 100 or so late divine transformation stage cultivators behind him also burst into laughter. They wouldn't be afraid even if there were 1,000 of them, let alone an early divine transformation stage cultivator. Long Chen, don't do anything stupid. Each of these cultivators at the late stage of the divine transformation realm is probably at the 7th tier of the divine transformation realm. As long as you stay in the Pill Pagoda, the people of the Pill Pagoda will never back down. Qin Qing, as well as the princes and generals around them, looked at Long Chen in confusion. Although his breakthrough into the divinity realm today had caused a vision of heaven and earth, how could he not know when to retreat in such a situation? Just as everyone was guessing, a cold light answered all their questions. The sword in my hand is enough. A cold sword light flashed. Long Chen held his sword and soared into the sky. Everyone was first stunned when they saw this scene, and then they cried out in shock without end. Who would have imagined that Long Chen would actually dare to take the initiative to attack under such circumstances? This was simply no different than suicide. However, in the next moment, everyone reacted. Lu Tsonglan and the other elders of the Pill Tower all released their spiritual light, and they sent beams of spiritual light into the sky. They wanted to restrain the many powerhouses behind Huang Pulei and give Long Chen a chance to survive. For a moment, the sky was filled with intertwining spiritual lights, and violent rumbling sounds spread out. Huang Pulei's eyes were filled with mockery as he roared, "You're courting death." Silhouettes flashed behind him, and dozens of people rushed towards Long Chen in an instant. The rest of the people launched attacks in all directions. Only Qin Qing and the other generals had no intention of joining the battle. In their opinion, no matter how talented Long Chen was, there was only death awaiting him. It was unwise to offend the great Qian Empire at this moment, but one of the princes rushed out. This person was the third prince, Qin Lai. Seeing Qin Lai rush out, the great prince Qin Feng revealed a smile on his face. He secretly thought that the third prince was stupid. Now that Long Chen was undoubtedly going to die, saving him like this was simply asking for trouble. It was very likely that it would cause a great disaster for the Black Dragon Empire. However, in the next moment, everyone was stunned. Even Qin Qing couldn't help but widen his eyes. They saw Huang Pulei, who was surrounded by more than 100 people, spurt out blood from his neck. The light in his eyes instantly dissipated. His face was filled with confusion, as if he didn't know why he had died. However, he really did die. The battle had just begun, and the great Qian Empire's prince beside Huang Pulei had died. He was killed in front of everyone. After the first round, the soul transformation realm powerhouses stood on the ground in a daze, and their spiritual light instantly dissipated. The scene was terrifyingly silent for a moment. Whether it was the people from the Pill Tower, the 100 soul transformation realm powerhouses around Huang Pulei, or Qin Qing and the others, all of them could faintly hear rapid breathing. After a long while, the late-stage soul transformation realm cultivator under Huang Pulei cried out in shock, "The prince beside Huang Pulei is dead. The prince beside Huang Pulei of the great Qian Empire has died in the Black Dragon Empire." Roars that resounded through the sky rang out, and everyone in the imperial capital stopped what they were doing at this moment. After the roars, the 100 or so late-stage soul transformation realm powerhouses stared at Long Chen with bloodshot eyes. At some point, Long Chen was standing in the same place again. His face was as calm as water, as if none of this had anything to do with him. However, drops of blood were dripping from the long sword in his hand. At this moment, Qin Qing and the others also reacted. Everyone stared at Long Chen. They never thought that such a big change would happen in the blink of an eye. They didn't even see how Long Chen killed Huang Puliai. How did he kill Huang Puliai in front of the 100 or so soul transformation realm powerhouses? Looking at the 100 or so late-stage soul transformation realm powerhouses with bloodshot eyes, Qin Qing's face became completely gloomy. He coldly said, "All generals, listen up. Kill the invaders from the Great Qian Empire. Leave no one alive." As Qin Qing's voice fell, the generals behind him all charged out. At the same time, silver crossbows came crashing down from all directions. During this period of fighting, the military forces within the imperial capital had already surrounded the Pill Pagoda by 3 layers. In an instant, the Pill Tower and the royal family fought with the 100 or so late-stage soul transformation realm powerhouses left behind by Huang Puliai. Under the countless crossbows, the hundreds of soul transformation realm powerhouses in the sky were all seriously injured. The corners of Long Chen's mouth curled into a smile when he saw this. Qin Qing's actions were not entirely for the sake of helping him. Otherwise, Qin Qing would have made a move before Huang Puliai died. Now, Qin Qing had no choice but to do this. He had the intention of sizing up the situation. Huang Puliai died in the imperial capital of the Black Dragon Empire. No matter what, this would lead to a war between the Great Qian Empire and the Black Dragon Empire. Instead of letting these people go back alive, it would be better to kill them. Moreover, since the Great Qian Empire had become enemies with the Great Qian Empire, why not take the opportunity to rope in Long Chen? At this moment, Long Chen held a very high position in Qin Qing's heart. On the other hand, it had to be said that Qin Qing's decisiveness made Long Chen admire him. In such a short time, he made the best choice. Seeing the spiritual light shoot out and gradually drown the hundreds of late-stage soul transformation realm powerhouses in the imperial army, the great Prince Qin Feng's face became unprecedentedly ugly. At this moment, he felt an unprecedented crisis. That was Huang Puliai, one of the strongest fighters in the Great Qian Empire. He was at the peak of the late-stage soul transformation realm. At this moment, he was killed by Long Chen with a single sword strike. No one could even see the sword strike clearly. Just how strong was this person? Qin Feng's eyes fell on Long Chen from afar. He then turned to the 2 people behind him and asked in a low voice, "Are you 2 sure you can kill him?" The 2 young men didn't answer for a long time. Chapter 160. The Empire's Crisis Outside the Pill Pagoda. It was a scene of devastation. Hundreds of late-stage divine transformation cultivators were all killed within the capital of the Black Dragon Empire. Everyone present, whether they were soldiers, generals, or royal relatives, knew that after today, the Black Dragon Empire would completely break off relations with the Great Qian Empire. The reason why the prince beside the emperor dared to go to the Black Dragon Empire without any scruples was because he knew that Qin Qing wouldn't dare to kill him. However, he didn't expect that he would die at the hands of an early-stage divine transformation cultivator, and with just 1 sword strike, after killing Huang Puliai, Long Chen stood in place without moving a single step, as if everything around him was insignificant. No one dared to come within 100 meters of him. That sword strike just now was shocking and awe-inspiring. "Your Majesty, what do we do now? Huang Puliai is dead, and the hundreds of late-stage divine transformation cultivators have all been killed. This news will definitely reach the Great Qian Empire within 10 days. When that time comes, the consequences will be unimaginable," a general said in a deep voice. Qin Qing nodded, looked deeply at Long Chen, and replied, "Prepare for war. Take out 50% of our forces and send them to the only route between the Great Qian Empire and the Black Dragon Empire." Yes. The generals retreated one by one. Before leaving, they couldn't help but glance at Long Chen, as if they wanted to remember this youth in their hearts. "Qin Lai, you stay here and arrange the follow-up matters. The rest of you, follow me back to the Imperial Palace." Qin Qing continued. Third Prince Qin Lai was startled at first, but immediately agreed. After everyone left, Qin Lai walked toward Long Chen under everyone's gaze. In front of countless people in the Pill Pagoda, he bowed and saluted. After a while, his eyes were like stars, and he said to Long Chen in a deep voice, "Your Majesty, please save the Black Dragon Empire." Once they started a war with the Great Qian Empire, the possibility of the Black Dragon Empire's defeat was extremely high. Even if the 5 great sects controlled it, it wouldn't be destroyed, but it would still pay a huge price. And this price was definitely not something the Black Dragon Empire could bear. For some reason, Qin Lai had an incomparably strong feeling that perhaps only the person in front of him could help him in this situation. Demons dance chaotically, demons star chaotic world destiny. Qin Lai still remembered what the imperial advisor had said that day. A faint smile appeared at the corner of Long Chen's mouth. Qin Qing's move of retreating in order to advance was also very subtle. His intention of having Qin Lai come and talk to him was also very obvious, but Long Chen didn't care. Looking at Qin Lai in front of him, Long Chen's mind was filled with a myriad of thoughts. The scenes from his previous life were still vivid in his mind. After taking a deep breath, Long Chen replied, "This is what I owe you. I said that I would let you rule the world, and I will never go back on my words. This matter started because of me, so I will naturally settle it myself. Brother Long Chen and I have not done anything for each other, so where does the word owe come from?" Qin Lai asked doubtfully. Long Chen smiled and gestured for Qin Lai to enter the room, indicating that they should talk in detail. He had no intention of explaining. On the other side, Qin Qing and many other princes and officials had already returned to the imperial palace. Everyone's face was extremely gloomy. They all knew that the Black Dragon Empire was facing a great calamity. Inside the palace, the civil and military officials, as well as the princes and relatives, were all silent. "Monarch, are we really going to war with the Great Qian Empire for that youth?" a civil official asked with an ashen face. Qin Qing coldly glanced at this person and said in a deep voice, "Can you use your pig brain to think carefully before you speak? If I had known that Long Chen could kill Huang Pulei, I would have risked my life to protect Huang Pulei. But after Huang Pulei died under Long Chen's sword, do you think that the Great Qian Empire would let the Black Dragon Empire go even if I killed Long Chen and handed over his head?" A military official also sneered and said, "Lord Liang, you are really too naive. The prince beside the emperor and the Great Qian Empire's monarch are brothers. The two of them are of the same breath and branch. If you tell everyone that he is an early-stage soul transformation realm cultivator and killed a late-stage soul transformation realm cultivator, would they believe you? I'm afraid that in a few days, the Great Qian Empire will spread the news that it was our Black Dragon Empire who secretly killed him." Everyone was silent. The civil official surnamed Liang's face turned green and purple, and he no longer spoke. After a long time, no one was able to speak. Qin Qing looked at the civil and military officials in the hall without saying a word. He shook his head and sighed. He also knew that this battle was unavoidable. After a deep sigh, he began to cough violently. "Bring forward the coronation ceremony and prepare for war. Perhaps my life will be of some use. I only hope that the monarch of the Great Qian Empire will withdraw his troops when the time comes." Qin Qing turned and left the hall. Many officials began to discuss. Only the great prince, Qin Feng, was so excited that his body was trembling. He never thought that today would be a blessing in disguise. Bringing forward the coronation ceremony meant that he would ascend to the position of crown prince. Once Qin Qing abdicated, he would become the monarch of the Black Dragon Empire. As for whether Qin Lai would die or not, he didn't care. The next morning, Qin Lai walked out of the Pill Pagoda in a daze. He went straight back to the imperial capital and immediately went to Qin Qing's palace. Qin Qing saw that Qin Lai had returned and asked, "Long Chen was originally your guest. Yesterday you were the first to help him. He should have a good impression of you." We must try our best to rope him in. He will definitely be one of the top 3 on the road of immortal ascension. This is very important to the Black Dragon Empire. Qin Lai nodded and replied, Long Chun was originally a member of the Black Dragon Empire. He said that as long as he can pass the road of immortal ascension, he will definitely enter the 5 great sects in the name of the Black Dragon Empire. Qin Qing heard this and nodded in satisfaction. Seeing that Qin Lai wanted to say something, he couldn't help but ask, If you have something to say it. Qin Lai was silent for a long time and said, It's nothing. I'm a little tired. I'll take my leave first. Qin Qing watched Qin Lai leave and shook his head. In his heart, the 3rd Prince Qin Lai had always been the number 1 candidate to be the crown prince. He had even planned to announce it during the coronation ceremony. But now, it seemed that not only would the coronation ceremony be brought forward, but only the 1st prince would be chosen. Long Chun had killed Huang Puliai. At this moment, he couldn't abolish the crown prince's position and cause internal strife. In reality, in his previous life, the 3rd prince became the crown prince. The 1st prince rebelled and forcefully took the throne. After the 3rd prince was abolished and fled, he met Long Chen by chance. In this life, because of Long Chen, the situation had changed. Outside the Great Hall, Qin Lai recalled the day before when he asked Long Chen if he had a way to resolve the crisis of the Black Dragon Empire. Long Chen's answer echoed in his ears. 1 man and 1 sword, that's enough. Qin Lai muttered to himself, What kind of person is he? Why did he help me? How can 1 man and 1 sword fight against an empire? Regarding Long Chen, Qin Lai had thousands of questions in his heart, but he didn't know where to start. In his eyes, Long Chen was full of mystery and arrogance. No one dared to defy him. It was as if nothing in the world was in his eyes. Chapter 161. Heaven's Clandestine Empire. Imperial Capital, inside the Imperial Palace. The Emperor of the Qian Empire, Huang Puliuo, had a gloomy expression on his face. Did the Emperor beside the Emperor really die in the Black Dragon Empire's capital? Huang Puliuo's voice seemed to come from the depths of hell. Emperor, it is said that the Emperor beside the Emperor led more than 100 late divine transformation stage cultivators to capture a young man called Long Chun. However, no one would have thought that the Black Dragon Empire would dare to kill the Emperor beside the Emperor for this person. A middle-aged man wearing a python robe said in a deep voice, Why aren't the other countries afraid of our Qian Empire? Now that the Black Dragon Empire is doing this, they are simply not putting our Emperor in their eyes. A third-rate empire dares to humiliate the dignity of our Qian Empire. This matter will not be settled peacefully. Even if the immortal path is about to open, so what? This time, we will definitely make the Black Dragon Empire pay the price in blood. Everyone spoke one after another, all filled with righteous indignation. Naturally, they blamed the death of the Emperor beside the Emperor, Huang Puliai, on the head of the entire Azure Dragon Empire. In fact, as Qin Qing and the others said, even if there were rumors that Long Chun killed the Emperor beside the Emperor, no one would believe it. How could a late divine transformation stage cultivator be killed by an early divine transformation stage cultivator? Huang Puliuo slightly pressed his hands down, his whole body emitting a terrifying aura. He said in a cold voice, Within 3 days, I want an army of 300,000 to attack the Black Dragon Empire. Fight! Fight! Black Dragon Empire, inside the Pill Pagoda. Long Chun seemed to be unconcerned about the war between the two countries caused by his sword. He was still sitting cross-legged in the cultivation room. His attention was completely focused on the mysterious Dragon Palace in his mind. Since his rebirth, the Dragon Palace had always existed in his sea of consciousness. As his cultivation increased, the fog that shrouded it dissipated. Although Long Chun had just entered the late divine transformation stage, he had the sovereign's divine sense and a sea of qi. Even in his previous life, he could not compare. Therefore, although he was only in the late divine transformation stage, he could easily kill a late divine transformation stage cultivator. An entire great stage, such heaven-defying combat strength could be said to be unprecedented. This chaotic golden tome is indeed a legendary holy item. If I continue to cultivate like this, I'm afraid my cultivation will become even more heaven-defying as I progress. A chi sea of 100,000 miles is simply unheard of. With such a sea of chi, what kind of scene would it be once he condenses his core and steps into the return to void stage? Long Chen murmured. Even he was a little dazed. After sighing for a while, Long Chen emptied his mind and poured all his divine thoughts into the Dragon Palace in his sea of consciousness. 1. A roaring sound reverberated in Long Chen's mind, and the boundless sea of consciousness suddenly surged with monstrous waves. Long Chen only felt that his divine thoughts were instantly grabbed by a giant hand and pulled into the interior of the Dragon Palace. When Long Chen got rid of the powerful shackles, he realized that he had entered the Dragon Palace in person. This feeling was extremely mysterious. He could even clearly sense the sensation of touch. What exactly is this place? For a moment, Long Chen only felt that his mouth and tongue were dry. He slowly walked toward the center of the Dragon Palace. This was because he clearly remembered that this was the place where the spirit of the true dragon resided. After walking for less than 100 steps, Long Chen stepped into a large hall. Inside the hall, there were dancing dragons and phoenixes. On both sides of the hall, there were 9 mythical beasts. The brilliant light made it impossible for anyone to see it. The first mythical beast had 4 eyes, black skin, a long neck, 4 legs, and a huge mouth that looked like it was about to swallow the world. Its name was Taotai. The second mythical beast was shaped like a giant lion. Its body was covered in smoke and fire as if it was about to take flight. Its name was Swan and I. Every mythical beast was vivid and lifelike. Their bodies were covered in golden light. However, if one looked closely, it was not difficult to see that each of them was a huge stone statue. In the center of the hall, there was a huge golden plaque, and on it was written, "The 9 sons of the dragon, conquering the ages." The 8 golden words were like thunderbolt. The domineering aura made one tremble in fear. Long Chen walked forward slowly. After taking a few steps, his body emitted a golden light. A coiling golden dragon whizzed out from his body and roared toward the sky. A feeling of flesh and blood instantly surged in Long Chen's heart. This is the nameless origin energy. Could it be that the origin energy cultivated by the chaotic golden book is the origin energy of the dragon? Long Chen saw the golden dragon form around him and suddenly realized. At this moment, he understood that the chaotic golden book was most likely the cultivation method of the dragon clan in the legend. This dragon palace was the dragon clan's divine hall of inheritance. Suppressing the shock in his heart, he walked forward again. When he stepped into the central hall, his mouth was dry. Including the central hall in front of him, there were a total of 9 halls in the dragon palace. Apart from the first hall, there was a dragon statue in each of the other 8 halls. 5-clawed golden dragon, 3-eyed thunder dragon, green dragon, azure dragon, mirage dragon, horned dragon, coiling dragon, gazing dragon. The moment Long Chen stepped into the central hall, he saw the words Ancestral Dragon written on the top. This was also the place where Long Chen saw the dragon spirit that day. After countless years, my clan will finally see the light of day again. A dragon's roar sounded from the endless dragon spirit in front of him. The space in all directions shook and even cracks appeared out of nowhere. Long Chen realized that although this place was in his sea of consciousness, it seemed to be a separate space. It was extremely strange. Since you have the origin energy of the dragon, you are my heavenly clan. I will help you activate the dragon bloodline. The wind and clouds surged. The giant dragon head slowly descended toward Long Chen. Its eyes were full of disdain. When their eyes met, the ancestral dragon's shadow fell into Long Chen's body. In an instant, Long Chen felt as if all the blood in his body was boiling. It was as if he was in a sea of fire and magma. The burning sensation spread throughout his body. His skin began to crack, his bones began to collapse. His blood began to evaporate. However, the golden dragon's shadow behind him became more and more solid. In the cultivation room of the Pill Pagoda, Long Chen's body was gradually covered by scales. A terrifying aura reverberated in the air. His eyes suddenly opened, and there was actually a substantial golden light leaping out of his pupils. Heavenly Dragon Bloodline. I, Long Chen, have obtained the number 1 bloodline in the 10 Directions Celestial Territory. Haha! Long Chen could not help but laugh. Buzz. As Long Chen's fingers moved slightly, streaks of origin energy appeared in his hand. At this moment, there was a golden dragon rising and falling in his energy sea. He also clearly felt that the blood essence in his body had completely turned into a pure golden color. Gradually, there were many thoughts that did not belong to him in his mind. Yazi fighting soul, come out! The dragon's shadow around Long Chen shook. As his right hand moved, a stone statue in the main hall of the Dragon Palace collapsed. A giant beast's soul the size of a small mountain appeared in front of him and crawled on the ground. This beast had a dragon's body and a jackal, and its eyes were like bells. Chapter 162. Reduce the number of troops by 20,000. Yazi prostrated on the ground and spoke in human language. I'm willing to establish the dragon race's peerless merit for my master. When Long Chen heard this, he was greatly shocked. The ancestral dragon's message that appeared in his mind was actually real. From today onwards, he was no longer a human. He was a lineage of the Azure Heaven, the leader of the dragon race. The so-called Dragon Clan was one of a kind in the world. In other words, Long Chen was the only dragon in the world. Although these 9 mythical beasts have the body of a dragon bloodline beast, they are the soul of an unparalleled war god. If they were to establish their own god's kingdom in the future, they would become unparalleled divine generals. Long Chen's eyes shone brightly. With the soul of such a divine beast, his road to revenge in the future would undoubtedly be much smoother. I order you to escape into the void and search for your current body. As my lord commands. As Long Chen finished speaking, the Yazi fighting soul swayed and disappeared into the void. Tautai fighting soul, come out. I'm willing to contribute to the Dragon Clan's glory for my master. The 9 fighting souls disappeared in front of Long Chen, and the 9 mythological beast statues in the first hall of the mysterious Dragon Palace disappeared. I wonder what kind of experts these 9 fighting souls will find to reside in, and whether they can really be of use to me. Long Chen muttered to himself and did not think too much about it. Dong dong. Just when Long Chen was about to try out the power of the dragon bloodline that he now possessed, there was a series of knocks on the door. This made him frown abruptly. One had to know that under normal circumstances, it was very taboo to be interrupted while cultivating in a secret room. Presumably, there was some urgent matter. Long Chen steadied his mind and walked out of the cultivation room. Lu Tsonglan was right in front of him. Guild leader, may I know why you're looking for me so urgently? Long Chen asked. Lu Tsonglan replied, originally, I shouldn't have disturbed Brother Long Chen's cultivation, but I know that you and the third prince are old friends, and I've received news that he might be in big trouble. Long Chen frowned and motioned for Lu Tsonglan to continue. However, as Lu Tsonglan spoke, his expression grew colder and colder, and his brows tightened. The Crown Prince had already been conferred as the Crown Prince of the Black Dragon Empire, and according to what Lu Tsonglan had heard from a palace alchemist, the Big Dry Empire was already marching towards the Black Dragon Empire. It could be said that the Black Dragon Empire was bound to lose this battle. But no one would have thought that the vanguard general this time was the third Prince Qin Lai. Long Chen was silent for a moment before he said, That's not necessarily a bad thing. After saying that, Long Chen ignored Lu Conglan's puzzled expression and walked out of the room. In fact, Long Chen knew that with his current strength, as long as the 5 great sects did not interfere, he could easily push the third prince onto the throne. The Black Dragon Empire was really too small in his eyes. Although he was only at the first level of the deity transformation realm, he could easily become the strongest person below the Void Return realm. No one in the deity transformation realm could be his match. However, he also knew that if he pushed Qin Lai onto the throne with iron-blooded methods, it was very likely that the 5 great sects would interfere. After all, the great empires were under the command of the 5 great sections. He had to make Qin Lai's reputation even greater. That way, the 5 great sects might not interfere with the change of the throne. After a few turns, Long Chen arrived at the barracks outside the imperial capital. "Who are you? State your name." The leader of the soldiers stopped Long Chen. Long Chen said indifferently, "Go and report to the third prince Qin Lai. Just say that Long Chen requests an audience, Long Chen." After hearing this, the soldier's expression changed. As a soldier of the imperial capital, how could he not know the name that had spread throughout the various empires? "You're Long Chen, the third on the heaven list who defeated Jian Shisan with a single sword strike?" The guard said involuntarily, "It's rumored that you also killed Huang Pulei with a single sword strike. I wonder if that's true?" As soon as this person spoke, the soldiers who were originally training all around seemed to have heard the name Long Chen. They ran over from afar, their faces full of reverence. "Is this the rumored person? I didn't expect him to be so young. We've been stationed outside the city these days and heard your name. There are rumors that you killed Huang Pulei. I think it's fake." Huang Pulei is a late-stage deity transformation realm expert of the Deqian Empire. Long Chen's expression darkened slightly. If this was a market, it would be fine, but this was a barracks. These people were soldiers who were about to enter the battlefield. Why were they so undisciplined? "What nonsense are you all making?" While everyone was sighing, Qin Lai walked towards them in his silver armor and shouted at them to retreat. When he saw Long Chen's gloomy face, he suddenly smiled bitterly and said, "Brother Long Chen, come with me to the tent. I don't know why you've come." "I know you're in trouble, so I've come to help," Long Chen said lightly. Qin Lai's expression froze. In fact, he had a lot of doubts in his heart. From the moment he saw Long Chen seemed to have an inexplicable good impression of him. However, he couldn't think of when he had done Long Chen a favor. After entering the tent, Qin Lai finally couldn't help but ask, "Brother Long Chen, although you've been my guest, I've never done you such a favor. Is there any other reason why you're treating me like this?" Long Chen smiled and said, "You've saved my life. The reason why I'm where I am today is all thanks to you." These words made Qin Lai even more confused. When had he ever saved Long Chen? What did his achievements today have to do with him? Unfortunately, Long Chen didn't have any intention of continuing, so he didn't ask any more. In fact, Long Chen sighed in his heart. The current Qin Lai had nothing to do with him, but if not for the previous Qin Lai, where would Long Chen, who had stepped into the sovereign realm in his previous life, have come from? How would he, who had obtained the chaotic golden book and been reborn today? Even Long Chen couldn't fathom the mysteries of karma in the world. Everything was just following his heart. The favor of the previous life, I'll repay it today. The enmity of the previous life, I'll repay it in this life. It was all for the sake of a clear thought. Long Chen stopped thinking about it and asked in a low voice, "Does the monarch really want you to use 50,000 soldiers as the vanguard to fight the great Qian Empire's 300,000 soldiers?" Qin Lai didn't know where Long Chen got the news from, so he just smiled bitterly and nodded. Last night at midnight, Father announced that the first prince was crowned as the crown prince. From the day of the decree, he will be in charge of government affairs. The first thing he did was to let me be the vanguard, Qin Lai replied. Without waiting for Long Chen to speak, he continued, Qin Feng and I have always been at odds, so it's understandable for us to suppress him like this. After all, although the chances of dying as the vanguard aren't high, defeat is unavoidable. My position in the court will also plummet. Long Chen nodded. Although Qin Feng's actions were meant to suppress him, they were still authorized by Qin Qing. Qin Qing naturally wouldn't let Qin Lai die for no reason. Long Chen thought for a while and said, Originally, I planned to end this battle directly, but now it seems that this battle should be ended by you personally. Hearing this, Qin Lai's eyes suddenly lit up. He thought of the battle that Long Chen fought in the 100-Mile Valley. If he had Long Chen's help, even if he couldn't win, he wouldn't lose too badly. Please speak clearly, Brother Long Chen, Qin Lai said seriously. Chapter 163. On the eve of the great battle 50,000 troops, 20,000 less. When Long Chen said this, the wine cup in Qin Lai's hand fell to the ground as he stared at Long Chen in shock. Long Chen, don't joke around. The Big Dry Empire has a total of 300,000 troops this time. My vanguard only has 50,000 soldiers. If I were to lose another 20,000 men, it would be impossible for me to return alive. Although Qin Lai believed in Long Chen's battle formation, Long Chen's words were too shocking. 300,000 against 30,000, 10 times the battle strength. Even if the battle formation was strong, how could they win? Moreover, the battle today was not like the battle at the 100-Mile Valley. The Big Dry Empire's soldiers far surpassed the Black Dragon Empire. This battle was a battle with their backs to the river. If they were to reduce their own strength, it would be no different from suicide. Seeing Long Chen's indifference, Qin Lai continued to explain, Brother Long Chen may have seen it. The soldiers outside are all new recruit. Many of them are not even from the old empire. There are already people in the court who have guessed that the battle between the two empires has already been decided. This so-called vanguard and the next few battles are just to appease the anger of the Big Dry Empire. In the end, my father will personally go to the Big Dry Empire to ask for forgiveness. When Qin Lai finished speaking, his expression was extremely ugly and ashen. But he also knew that the battle between the Black Dragon Empire and the Big Dry Empire was no different from throwing an egg at a rock. If they wanted to reduce the losses of the Black Dragon Empire, this was the only way. If the third prince trusts me, you can leave the matters of the camp to me before the battle. Long Chen replied. Qin Lai saw Long Chen's confident words and was actually a little shaken. After thinking for a while, Qin Lai shouted, Instead of using 50,000 troops to protect my life, I will hand my life over to Brother Long Chen today. The next morning, a piece of news spread throughout the camp. The third Prince Qin Lai ordered to reduce the number of soldiers by 20,000. For a while, the entire army camp was filled with excitement as the 20,000 people that had been reduced cried out in joy. Everyone knew that they were the vanguard this time, facing the Big Dry Empire's 300,000 army. Rather than calling it a charge, it was more like cannon fodder. The 20,000 men quickly withdrew from Qin Lai's encampment. The remaining 30,000 men had ashen faces. When Long Chen and Qin Lai walked out of the barracks, many Kiliarchs stood up. General, what are you doing? Why did you reduce the number of troops by 20,000? Do you think that 30,000 of us should be sent to our deaths? Against an army of 300,000, only 30,000 of us have to lead the charge. This is not fair. I quit. This is simply courting death. Since there are going to be casualties, it doesn't make much of a difference to me. A series of shouts quickly spread throughout the army. The entire camp was in turmoil because of Long Chen's decision. There was even a Chiliarch who took advantage of the chaos to blend into the crowd and rush out of the camp. Whoosh! At this time, in front of the camp, a cold light flashed in everyone's eyes as they felt their surroundings darken. Those who retreat without a fight and disobey military orders, behead. As the cold light dissipated, a blood sword soared into the sky. All the voices disappeared like the ebbing tide. Long Chen was standing in front of everyone at some point, and the Chiliarch who had just stepped out of the tent was already beheaded. At the same time, Qin Lai walked out in his battle armor with a serious expression. Clang! Under the gazes of everyone, Qin Lai stood beside Long Chen and unsheathed his sword. 5 days later, I will lead you against an army of 300,000 from the great Qian Empire. Perhaps you all think that you will definitely die in this battle, and everyone has the thought of escaping if there is a chance. Perhaps you all think that you will die and I, the third prince of the Black Dragon Empire, will live. Qin Lai's voice became louder with each sentence, and the last sentence was like rolling thunder, causing people's hearts to tremble. At the same time, he waved his sword and said, "If we lose this battle, then you and I will sleep together in the 9 underworlds." Qin Lai's words caused the entire army to calm down. They were all new soldiers and did not have many thoughts of fighting for the empire. Some people even chose to eat the imperial family's food to not starve to death on the street. However, they knew that the third prince's life was very valuable. If he wasn't afraid, then how could they, who were 7 feet tall and soldiers, be afraid? Seeing that the scene had returned to order, Qin Lai looked deeply at Long Chen and said, "In the next 5 days, young Master Long Chen will conduct special training for you all. If there is any disobedience, you will be dealt with according to military law." Long Chen slowly walked forward with a faint smile on his face. Standing in front of tens of thousands of soldiers, he seemed to have returned to his previous life when he had established the Firmament God Kingdom. Below the stage, there was a burst of discussion. Everyone's eyes were filled with contempt. These days, although Long Chen's name on the heaven list made them admire him, could such a young man really lead them? In the face of an army of 300,000, he still proposed a ridiculous order to reduce the number of soldiers by 20,000. Ignoring the gazes of the crowd, Long Chen's sword was still dripping blood. He knew that he had to train these 30,000 people into iron-blooded soldiers within 5 days. A troop of iron-blooded soldiers who would only obey orders. The moment Long Chen stood up, Qin Lai slowly walked out of the crowd's sight. Today, he had already handed his life over to Long Chen. "Everyone, stand here until noon tomorrow. If you move an inch, you will be killed without mercy." After Qin Lai left, Long Chen's first order stunned everyone. But when they saw the dead centurion, they all felt a chill run down their spine. They could only stand where they were and did not dare to move an inch. Just like that, they stood for an entire day. Until noon the next day, Yenli came to the barracks, under everyone's watchful eyes. Long Chen and Yenli used spirit stones to inscribe an extremely huge array formation. The entire array formation contained a total of 30,000 soldiers. What are they doing? Are they going to practice a battle formation? But it's only a few days until the battle begins. What's the use of practicing this? What is he trying to do? Although this Major General's strength is strong, is his method of training us to stand here and bask in the sun? Finally, the crowd could not help but whisper to each other. Long Chen placed the spirit stones to carve the formation. After hearing the whispers of the crowd, he said indifferently, "Everyone, take a good breath of fresh air. In the next 3 days, I will let you experience a hellish life. When the time comes, I'm afraid you will remember this day for the rest of your lives." Under the scorching sun, Long Chen's words made them feel a bone-chilling cold. Unconsciously, they looked at the formation carvings on the ground. For some reason, they felt a faint sense of unease. At this moment, the crowd also knew why they had to reduce the number of soldiers by 20,000. It was because even though the two of them worked together to carve and set up this formation, it still took them an entire day. The amount of spirit stones used was probably tens of thousands. Chapter 164. Illusion Realm Array. In just a day or two, the news of the third prince Qin Lai reducing his army by 20,000 under Long Chen's suggestion spread throughout the imperial capital, and became a legend. In the imperial palace, Qin Feng sat upright on the throne in the central hall. Beneath him were the two attendants from the 5 great sects. Qin Feng, your throne has been secured and no one can threaten you. The battle of the great Qian Empire has helped you, one of them said. Hearing this person call him by his name, Qin Feng frowned slightly, but soon relaxed. The two of them followed his master's orders and came from the 5 great sects to help him. Naturally, they didn't care about the imperial prince. Qin Feng nodded and then said, "Have you heard about the news that has been spreading in the capital these past 2 days? That Long Chen is actually still helping my third brother Qin Lai. It's just that he deducted another 20,000 armors from the original 50,000. Why do you care about him? Even if he has heaven-defying abilities, can he protect himself from an army of 300,000 with 30,000 soldiers?" The other person sneered. Qin Feng shook his head. Thinking of the battle in the 100-Mile Valley, he still felt uneasy. He said in a deep voice, "Didn't you two say that there was a way to kill Long Chen that was foolproof? What is it?" Thinking of how Long Chen killed Huang Pu Lei with one strike of his sword, Qin Feng felt a chill run down his spine. Today, Long Chen had become a thorn in his flesh. Although the two of them didn't have any direct enmity, since Long Chen killed Li Yuanwu and Xie Changfeng, the first prince and Xie Jiushan had almost killed him several times. He didn't know when he and Long Chen had reached a point where they would fight to the death. The two of them looked at each other and sneered. "The two of us used to be disciples of the Wanjian sect's law enforcement hall. We were expelled from the Wanjian sect because we cultivated an evil technique. If we use this technique, no matter how high his cultivation level is in Long Chen, as long as he hasn't reached the void return level, he'll die. Based on our observations, Long Chen's extraordinary combat strength is most likely due to his extraordinary attainments in swordsmanship and rare natural talent. However, he has just stepped into the divine transformation realm after all. At that time, so long as he activates the forbidden technique, no matter how extraordinary his sword Dao is, he will only have a path to death." Hearing this, Qin Feng's expression changed greatly. He quickly asked, "Since it's such a divine technique, why didn't the two of you use it earlier? As long as Long Chen is killed, I will definitely thank the two of you. I will also put in a good word for Master." Hearing this, the two smiled and replied, "There is a reason why this technique is called an evil technique. There are many conditions to use it, but now that the two countries are at war, this matter shouldn't attract the attention of the 5 great sections. This technique requires the heads of 50 men, 50 infants, and 50 young girls. If the first prince can accept these things, it's fine if Long Chen dies in the war with the Deqian Empire. If the two of us aren't here, he will suffer a fate worse than death." The two of them thought that these words would deter the first prince, Qin Feng. After all, this evil technique was really harmful to the harmony of the world. However, as soon as they finished speaking, the first prince immediately agreed and said lightly, "It's only 150 lives. Is this called an evil technique? I will go and make arrangements for Long Chen's journey. Regardless of whether he lives or dies in this battle, we must prepare everything first. I want nothing to go wrong." On the other hand, Yanli was sweating all over. She couldn't help but lean on Long Chen's body and mutter, "You set up such a large illusory formation. Can you control it? I'm so tired." "Teacher Yanli, don't look down on me. You have to know that great teachers produce great disciples," Long Chen teased with a smile. Yanli raised her beautiful eyebrows and rolled her eyes at Long Chen. She then said, "Thank you for that day. After you left, Yezi was detained by the Pill Tower. Moreover, he has already admitted that he was the one who killed the people of my clan." Long Chen smiled and didn't make a big deal out of it. He walked forward and moved his right hand. Rays of spiritual light flew up from the place where the 10,000 people were. They rushed into the sky and finally gathered at the place where the sun was. Immediately after, The 30,000 soldiers in the formation became lifeless and fell to the ground one by one. Do you want to ask me if I should kill Oyezi? Long Chen turned around and asked Yenli. Why don't you try it yourself? Yenli bit her lower lip. She was very conflicted at this moment. She loathed and hated Oyezi, but when she really wanted to kill him, she couldn't do it. For more than 10 years, this person raised her alone. Long Chen was like a wise man. He saw the conflict in her heart with a glance. Yenli looked deeply at Long Chen and walked into the formation with the mentality of giving it a try. After Yenli entered the formation, she instantly felt a continuous rumbling in her mind. Her thoughts began to disintegrate and she revealed a puzzled expression. After a moment, her expression gradually returned to normal. She muttered to herself, I promised Long Chen that I would go outside the imperial capital to help him set up a formation. Now, it looks like I'm going to be late. He was originally my student, but now he's more like my teacher. Humph. As she spoke, she walked out of the pill tower. However, she was quickly stopped by Lu Tsonglan. Oyezi has already admitted it. Back then, he was the one who planned to take you away and raise you to satisfy his perverted selfish desires. He killed your entire clan. Yenli's originally calm heart was suddenly filled with a monstrous roar. She rushed straight to the place where Oyezi was imprisoned. Her eyes were completely bloodshot from the fury she was feeling. Whoosh! A cold light flashed. Oyezi was stabbed to death by the sword. The moment Oyezi died, everything returned to the moment when she was about to leave the pill tower. Lu Tsonglan appeared again. She was once again enraged and killed Oyezi. This time, she waved her sword more than 100 times. Then, it was another reincarnation. At the same time, the 30,000 soldiers in the formation were experiencing the most terrifying thing in their lives. They walked through a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. The hatred in the deepest part of their hearts was magnified again and again. Their anger was accompanied by their slashes. Outside the formation, Long Chen's face was slightly pale. His forehead was faintly dripping with sweat. Countless scenes flashed past his eyes. It's really difficult for me to control 30,000 people in this refining dreamland by myself. If I had known earlier, I would have lost 10,000 more people. I only hope that you won't disappoint me in 3 days. Long Chen muttered to himself. The refining dreamland was actually not of a high level. It was not even a king-level formation. This formation was not in the legacy, but was used by him in his previous life to train the soldiers of the Firmament God Country. The most amazing thing about this formation was that it could use a strong divine thought to completely control the emotions of everyone in the formation. It could even create any scene based on their thoughts. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.